get to know who gets to be nominated in the Ghana Music Awards. So far, so far, the talking is talking. You gotta love days like this one. This one says, hello Joy, from there's huge traffic on the Tema Beach Road. Please advise motorists to use the motorway to Tema. Thank you. How do you know there's no traffic on the motorway? But if the police can go to the beach road and assist, I'm sure it would be helpful. Good afternoon, George. My favorite high life tune is Tom and Jerry from Kojo Enchi. Hope from Odumase Krobo sent that one in. Good afternoon, George. My favorite high life song is Otenhnu by the late Papa Yankson. Hope I got the spelling right. Thanks. And that is from Irajwa. So let me come straight to the studio and engage my panel. It's a full house today. It's going to be exciting. Let me start with the lady first. Boss. I can still say boss, right? Mrs. Teresa Ayari, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
You're looking
How
good.
Are you doing?
Very, very, very well. My producer is just not treating me well, but I'm okay. You have to come and take me back. You're looking good, looking good. How are the nominees on Veil going so far?
You tell me.
So far, we've had things.
We put it out and you give us the feedback.
No, so far, it's going as expected. I mean, for me, I'm expecting someone like Kitty to come in very strongly. It was a great year for Kitty. It was also a great year for Kwame Eugene. And some of the other acts also did very, very well. Samini had a great year with the song that he released with Ifia. I'm expecting that song to make it in the collaboration. We'll be surprised if it doesn't. But those are just mine. I don't know about the rest of the team. But what's your favorite high life song of all time? There's some noise on your line. Let's check that bench. There's some noise on the line. But while we fix that, let me also say good afternoon to Chief Moomin. Chief. Yes, while we fix that line, because that line feeds everybody on that side of the room. How are you doing, my brother?
Yes, I'm excellent. We are weathering the storm and
preparing for what?
For greater things ahead.
Have they paid your money finally?
Oh, it's history. No, never. But
the money never came.
We are over it. We are chasing bigger and juicier deals.
Okay, amen. We give glory to God. Let me go back to Teresa. Yes, I think the line is fixed now. Yes, you were telling me about your favorite high life song of all time.
I have lots of favorites from the various artists, but I think those that stand out for me will be Daddy Lumba. I wouldn't say a particular song, but Daddy Lumba songs. I like Kojoinchi and I like 9924.
The late Nana Tufo, may his soul rest in perfect peace. Okay, this one I'll come to Uncle Ken last because I think I have an idea. Prof Gavua. Prof, you know, a lot of people do not know Prof is actually a musician too.
Yeah, that's true because I stopped playing music actively when I got into administrative position at the university.
Why did you stop?
I have a principle: if you don't rehearse, you don't play, you don't perform. And I couldn't just combine administration with teaching and then music at the same time. But sooner than later, I'll get back. You get back into it.
So, which is your favorite high life tune of all time?
Oh, high life. That is relative, and I would say that music by Osibisa, it's vintage and it will never go. And so, Coffee Song, for example,
Coffee
remains top on my high life list.
Osibisa Coffee. It's a beautiful song. Yes. Coffee in Brazil. Mr. Mwangwafo.
Yes, George.
How are you doing, sir?
Charlie, we do.
We don't get choice. Which is yours? Your favorite high life song of all time?
You won't believe it, but my favorite high life song has stayed with me since I was a child.
Since you were a child?
Yes. A decade or a little more ago, Marius International replayed it.
Okay.
But the original was done by a young person and his group in London.
Okay.
So I think his name is Lonely something or Lone something. Maria. That song. I don't know. Okay. For some reason, when I hear that song, I just get goosebumped. It's been with me consistently, and I can play it over and over again and just get into mood swings. If I want to be melancholic, I play it. If I want to be happy, I play it. But Maria is my all-time favorite.
Interesting.
But of course, I love Osibisa.
Yeah.
And I love Papa Youngson. I like every kind of good high life music.
Exactly.
Yes.
Alaji, Sadiq Abdullah Abu is CEO of 3 Music Network. He's also with us in the studio. Strangely, today he's here on time. But while we're sorting out your microphones, let me come to Wagbejeka first. Or should we conclude it's Wagbejeka? Should we conclude it's Wagbejeka by Amanziba?
Well, actually, I mean, it should be in there, but I would say Yamwes Sewakoto. Yes, I have a great affinity to the soulful nature of that song.
Classic.
And, the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
It's how profound the words and the music is. So, yes, for me, it should be Sewakoto. Yes.
Okay. Uncle Ken.
And Amanziba, of course,
Definitely.
a close second.
Uncle Ken.
Yes, John.
Your favorite high life tune of all time?
My favorite high life tune
Yes.
is a tune by CK Man and the Carousel 7. And he has 2 versions of the particular tune, Mato Abua.
Okay.
And he has a normal version that's about 4 minutes in length. And then he has a salsa mix to it, which was on the Ajwa Yankee album. That's about 12 minutes. And it's an absolute gem.
Interesting.
So much percussion, so much vibe to that tune. It's always remained my favorite
Interesting.
high life tune.
Lovely. Well, if you're also listening, you can also share yours with us on 055-1111-997, which is your favorite high life tune of all time. I mean, mine, it's I actually love KK Fusu has a song called Yapisi. KK is a lot younger, so a lot of us young, even the young people, a lot of people do not know that song. Uncle Ken, you're trying to remember the song, Yeah, Person by KK Fusu.
I don't know it.
You do? Oh, I'm sure you do. It's not one of his. He hardly even performs it when he's doing shows. Yeah, he hardly performs it when he's doing shows. But well, that happens to be my favorite.
There
But
are
aside-
always certain tracks on albums
Yeah.
that do not become popular.
Exactly.
But are very, very good.
Exactly. Anyway, while we sort Sadiq's mic, I'm sure we can come back to the studio and start our conversation. Let me start with Prof. Gavua. And this is a conversation Prof. Gavua and I have had an opportunity to be on a United Nations platform where we spoke about before. And on that platform, I did assert that one of the reasons we're losing everything we're losing is because today's child knows America's Spider-Man, but does not know Kwaku Anansi. Is that true?
Very much so.
Why? Let us start our conversation from there. Prof, why does today's child know America's Spider-Man, but does not know Ghana's Kwaku Anansi?
I would say that the child today knows much more about external societies than who we are because of aspects of the educational system which we inherited from the colonial period. This educational system makes us to learn much more about other people than ourselves. So we know very little about who we are and about our environment. And the educational syllabus as we have it today has not changed very much from that colonial system. Today, from kindergarten, when they want to teach a child how to read, the A is for apple, not for apotoyua. Okay? And so on. So right from beginning, our children are being taught that it is better to know what is outside than what is within. And that accounts partly for why today's child does not know very much about his or her own society.
Interested. We'll come back. Prof. Gavua has placed it on the corridors of education for us. But Mr. Michael Monkwafo, the role of media A lot have said, and I'm sure Madam Teresa can also speak to that as well. The role of media and even event in space. A lot have also said that, look, that is where the core of the issue is. But media these days, we don't focus on our local stuff. We're sitting on Joy FM. We're speaking the finest English Ghana can find. Why are we not speaking Chi? Why are we not speaking Ga? Why are we not speaking Ewe? Why is this conversation being had in English? What is the role? Why is the child today so well vexed in matters that concern Marvel, Spider-Man, but does not know Kwekwanans?
I don't know where to come at it from, but I would like to key in a bit into what he said. You mentioned Kwekwanansi, and you remember when we had By the Fireside?
I remember.
Those days, yes. It was an initiative from Kunedu Ajman Rawlings.
Yes.
And she asked herself the same question that you're asking today. That what is it that we can do to try and position our children and their education within our heritage? So it was deliberately done. Recently, my catchword has been the word deliberate. I believe that we're not doing anything deliberate. Meanwhile, people are doing very deliberate things with the internet and so on, pushing their cultures. If your child spends a lot of time on the internet, any other things, Spotify, Twitter, whatever, they are being exposed to the metropolitan lifestyle of the globe. That one is cosmopolitan. Every child is picking it up. But I can bet you that the child in Japan has the modern savvy and yet is schooled in Japanese culture in every way. This side of the world, us, as Prof said earlier on, I think that the relics of colonialism are still hanging around very much. And even then, it was deliberately done. They built or rather molded or shaped forcibly what we used to be into their mold. You get it? And it was deliberate. Today, your children do not fit in Ghana if they go to the kind of schools we go to. Because the whole idea was to export your resources, including your human resources in the long run. So post-colonialism is following up on something that we thought was independence. But really what they decided to do was, look, there's no point spending so much money, positioning ourselves in these countries and making them vassals of Britain or Italy and so on. Let's go far away if they want independence, give them the impression that they have it, but we'll become puppet masters. Now they pull the strings and we dance to it. So unless we actually do two deliberate things, which is decouple from our past and then also deliberately embrace the kind of culture that we want for everybody, including our children, then we will not have children who are interested in Kwekwanansi. Kwekwanansi is not just folklore. It's our heritage in a lot of ways. It's our philosophy. It encapsulates what was our traditional practice, with our norms and values and so on. The closest we ever got to that, I dare say, would be Osofudatse, those days when GBC was the only station that there was. Now, I will take you up on what you said about the media. It's true that media has expanded in terms of technology and reach and so on. But content is still deficient in a lot of ways because it is not deliberate. We are following cosmopolitan life styles and formats. But have we done something deliberate? I saw GBC do something during the Heritage Month, just with costume, and I think the content too was not bad. I didn't monitor other stations, but generally I think that was a certain level of awareness that but we do it cosmetically. It's like, oh, this is culture month, so everybody gets into the mood, into the mold. But it should be consistent. For example, I can illustrate that. We have what we call African wear on Fridays.
Yeah.
Why should it be African wear on Fridays? Why shouldn't it be just our wear every time? Now today we wear this as well. I'm in suit. Okay, it is part of our culture now. So it is not to say back to roots. Let's go wear raffia skirts. No, but how have we influenced what we wear, for example? I have to say kudos to people like Kofi Ansan and what's his name again? forgetting its name. A lot of these modern fashion designers who have, tried to capture our idioms and images in the way they cut, in the way they use fabrics and so on. That's just talking broadly. So the bottom line is that there is a divorce from what we consider as our thing, and there's a very serious courtship going on with a global arena.
Let me bring the same question to Madam Theresa. Why does today's child not know Kweku Anansi but know Spider-Man?
Well, just to a lot of what I'm going to say is going to flow from what the two gentlemen before me have spoken about. I think it's more about, first of all, us having the awareness that we have a culture to protect and an identity to protect as Ghanaians, and being custodians of our own culture. No one can be a custodian of a culture apart from yourself. So if you do not respect what you have and put value on what you have, you will not see the right, you will not see the need to perpetuate it. So I think it's the value that we place on our culture, the pride that we have about who we are as Ghanaians. I mean, you are a global citizen, you're part of the world at large. That's why we speak English, because we need to communicate with the world at large. But as Ghanaians, we have our own local languages as well, So I think we haven't owned that aspect of ourselves as Ghanaians and worn it with pride. I mean, we see other African nations wear their culture with pride more than probably we do as Ghanaians. So we ourselves as Ghanaians need to be the first custodians of our culture, and it starts from the home. What do we understand about our culture, and how are we even bringing up our children in our culture? When we say culture, it sometimes sounds traditional and old-fashioned, but really, it's not. So I think it starts from how we ourselves are custodians of our culture. Secondly, who are the custodians of culture in our society, in our government, in our economy? Who are the custodians of culture? Do we clearly understand the mandate of the custodians of our culture, and how deliberate and intentional are these institutions being about perpetuating our culture and not making us forget and lose our identity as Ghanaians? And I think that's where we've lost it. That's where we've lost the plot. Who are the custodians? Where are they? Who are the ones going to be pushing that cultural agenda in our society? Because sometimes, first of all, it comes from the individual pride. That's the first one. Second one is how the society as a whole is driving it. He talked about Japan.
Yeah.
Other Asian cultures.
Yeah.
Even though they are modernizing, they are still very steeped in their culture, and they take their culture along with the modernization. And it comes from the family, which is the first block of, of society. It comes from the family, it comes from the community, and it comes from national pride and ownership. So where are we in this space? And when there's that sense of cultural pride, in everything we do, we will wear it and we will show it. So this call you are making is actually a call to all of us as individuals to go back to our roots and bring back the culture into our present day life. We should making culture deliberate efforts and be more intentional about instituting our culture in our children. Why haven't we, those of us who went through the Kweku Anansi generation and learned all the Kweku Anansi stories, what did we do about passing it on to our children? What did we as the custodians of the media do about modernizing the Kweku Anansi stories and making it more palatable and appealing to the current generation, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z? How have we made our culture palatable to them? Why haven't we done cartoon series of the Kweku Anansi if that's what they like, or that is what they are consuming through the mass media? Why aren't we telling our own cultural stories? And I think that's where the media has failed us. Why are we not telling our cultural stories? But sometimes when we are not doing things as we need to do as individuals, there comes policies which are deliberate efforts and attempts by government to direct
Straighten
us in
Yeah.
a particular way. So do we even have policies that are making us embrace our culture, are infusing our culture into daily aspects of our life, our education, as was mentioned, our media, and in so many other areas where culture is consumed? Are we being intentional? Because when you are not intentional, then you are relying on passion, and then you may not get where you want to get to. So sometimes the passion needs to be there, as well as the intention, the intent, and the deliberate attempted efforts.
Beautiful. Well put. Teresa mentioned wearing it, and when I look through the room, the only two people wearing it are Sadiq and Uncle Ken. We have all lost it. We are all not wearing it. Chief Woman, you're wearing it, eh? Oh, your watch is made in Ghana. Okay, all right. If it's exactly. Oh yeah, I mentioned you. I said you're also wearing it. Yeah.
The fabric.
Yes, the fabric is made in Ghana, right? Uncle Ken.
You gave us a topic.
Yes.
And the topic was going to be about our culture.
Exactly.
And we are in Ghana month.
Exactly.
Not so.
So you decided to wear
I
it.
decided to wear it. I do not have too much to add to what the esteemed guests have already espoused. And the Prof did make mention of the fact that it stems from what is put in the books that we learn in our schools.
Yeah.
Which is true. Mike also then alluded to Mike said something that got me a bit frazzled. He said that the suit has become our culture, which is true.
Yeah, it is very true.
You know, I mean, it is true. But immediately he said it, and at first I thought, what's Mike talking about? And then I said, yes, it's true. It was handed down to us by people who lorded it over us. And we did not say no to it. Over the years, we have not said no to it. I watch our parliaments, and it is when they decide to go African that they go African. But most of the time, they are in suits. You spoke about radio stations speaking English. George, will you be sitting here if Joy was not an English-speaking station?
Would I be sitting here would I have wanted to be a part of the Joy family?
As a host.
Yes, why not? Because
Speaking
my Ghanaian languages are flawless.
You would
Yes.
have.
Oh,
Okay.
hello, how are you? Yo, Twepolo, Joy FM.
I like that.
Apart from our Ghana month, when do we actually display our Ghanaian?
Our Ghanaianness.
Yes. When? We don't. So we've been doing things that were handed over to us, and our culture has been dissipated by that. I want to look at why we still have public servants living on what the foreigners were living on when they came to Ghana. Why didn't we just change everything after they handed the independence over to us, so that we looked at our circumstances and do things that would suit all of us? Why? We still take allowances for gardeners. We still take allowances for entertainment. Our public servants, don't they? They take allowances for gardeners, entertainment, this and that and that. They live rent-free in bungalows. Those things were given to those foreigners because they were foreigners. And they did not have anywhere to stay in this country while they were lording it over us. George, that's a fact. They did not have anywhere to. So if they were going to be the people looking after our economy and the country, we needed to house them and look after them. And that's why those things were instituted. After they left, we abandoned, everything that we had grown up with and resorted to living the same way. And in certain cases, even gone overboard. Do you understand? So the problem is a long-standing one. And if we have not been able to tackle it all these years, as Sadiq normally tells me, it's a generational thing. What is happening now, I don't see us going back to, doing things in a different way.
Right. You mentioned Sadiq, so let me come to Sadiq. Sadiq, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. You didn't tell me your favorite high life song of all time.
It doesn't have one.
Well, interestingly, I was going to say that, it can influence me to start to like 70s and 60s music. And whilst you searching on it, I found a number, so you'll be surprised that one of the recent favorites I've had is Agata and Omambo Aju.
Oh, okay, interesting.
How
And
about
then in fact
Habiba A?
in the 90s, it's interesting that some of the songs I've been having this conversation with a lot of people. Some of the songs that I've been tagged as a high life, even then that we all fell in love with. When you listen to it with the strictest definition of high life, most of them are not high life.
Exactly.
Most of them
Yeah.
aren't even
Yeah.
high life. So but I mean, I think that Agatha and Omar will be, even this one I was listening to Agatha.
You were listening to Agatha Shemini. Nice one, nice one. So let me come to you. I mean, you and Uncle Ken look like the ones who you got it. Pa. you got it. Chief Moomin also managed to add his watch. At least it's made in Ghana, so it's fine. So why don't you tell your kids Kwekwanansi stories? I know your kids, and I know they don't know Kwekwanansi story because I've asked them before. Why?
I mean, I think it's probably also because I have lost touch. I mean, in growing up, I'm sure I'll be the youngest here.
No.
And well, and then
Actually,
I
you are.
mean, when you look at the ways of the world today, in the ways that globalization has affected it, and all of that, if I needed to create a certain good future for the children, I needed to tap into where the world is headed and get them prepared for what will come in the future. So yes, once in a while we'll speak our house, how you tell them some stories and all of that, but it's not been the main thing I do to try to bring them up to speed with the ways of the world today.
So you speak English with your kids?
English and Hausa.
Interesting.
Hausa and English. So now they speak Hausa very well. They speak Chi very well. Hausa, English, it's very well as well.
But you started with English?
I started with English.
Okay. Very
Started with
interesting.
English.
I like that. You heard what Sadiq said. If he wants to create a very good future for them,
The ways the world is headed today.
where the world is headed today. Okay, it is situating our conversation right where I wanted to. Chief.
Yeah. George, I think that you've hit the nail right on the head, the way you're approaching the subject, and that's one of the things that actually was how I was going to frame my contribution to the discussion. But let me just start by saying that, we can understand culture, as a tangible product as and as an intangible. The tangible, your clothes, your food, and all of the aesthetics, and then the intangible are your values. So as we progress, one thing is certain, culture is never static. Culture is constantly regenerating. But what is important is the control you have over that regeneration process. You can be a consumer where you just sit down and everyone else influences you, or you can be a prosumer. You produce and you consume. We talk about high life. High life music is our culture, but high life is a fusion of traditional music and foreign influences from Europe and America and other places of the world. So yes, definitely culture will always change, So one of our panelists talked about the fact that even the suit is our culture, which is true. But the question then comes, how are we producing the suit, right? If we are constantly just importing what others are producing, the styling is not from us, everything is from abroad, then we are just consumers. But if our designers today have adopted, yes, suits, but we are sewing the suit, we're adding our symbolism to it, then you are beginning to nuance, the aspect of control of the culture. But generally, just say that a simple analogy to answering your question is like saying, why aren't bone shakers in use anymore? Why aren't we, using bone shakers? Because greater, better technology has come, more luxurious cars have come that people have pictures. So it's the same thing. Back in the days, we used to sit around the fireside and telling stories. That was one of the ways we used to absorb our culture. That's how we used to absorb the Kwekwanansi story. So even when we started transitioning into GTV, it was still by the fireside. It was still that idea of sitting around, the fireside, listening to stories. Nowadays, because of the nature of our economy and our systems, parents aren't sitting down in that traditional way to tell stories to their children. So children are consuming animations, they are consuming movies, and these are big budget productions that glamorizes people's cultures and stories. So what it means simply is that if we want to capture their attention, especially in this day and age where there's such a proliferation of information and content, if we want to capture the attention of our young minds, then we have to invest in such a way that we tell our stories in captivating, exciting, and engaging ways that can capture people's attention. And to conclude this introductory comment, content is everything that we create. Movies, music, everything. And to give one example, we are struggling with bleaching in our communities today, right? All across Africa, because we have allocated a particular standard of beauty to fairer. So the whiter you are, the fairer you are, the more beautiful you are. And over the years, our content has reinforced this narrative. Our music videos always casting, lead vexens as fair. Our movies, advertising industry, even till today, we are still singing Tuntum Broni, the aspect that if you are beautiful, then you are white, using white as an adjective for beauty. So until even we, the content producers, the artists, the musicians, the writers begin to understand understand the almost sacred responsibility that we have in creating new aspirations, we would only be regurgitating what others have done, and the consumption patterns of our country will reflect foreign taste and not our own traditionally curated taste, even though we are still being globalized.
Our conversation has been set. Table has been set. Now let's come to the meal. Prof, I'm coming back to you because I like where we are now. And I like especially where Sadiq went. If you want to create a certain future, you want to curate a certain future, because that's an argument I've had with someone before. Someone asked, George, why do you speak English with your kids? I said, well, if they go on the international market, if they happen to get a job at New York Stock Exchange or something, they are not going to speak Chi or Ga or anything there. I said, but don't you see the Chinese as well? I said, yes, the Chinese are a world superpower. You will have to go to them by all means. He said, so how did the Chinese get there? I said, well, we all grew up watching Chinese films. When we were consuming the Chinese films and enjoying, we did not realize that they were gradually creating a certain level of imposition on all of us. Same. What do you know about America? Hollywood. What do you know about India? Bollywood or whatever. A lot of the things that we've seen through the silver screen, and they've used that. James Bond, they've used that. So the question on the Kwekwanansi thing for me was more metaphorical. And through your submissions, we've gotten to where the problem actually is. So being a heritage tutor at the University of Ghana, specifically it's the Department of Archaeology and Heritage Studies at the University of Ghana. Prof, how do you portray Ghana's heritage to those that are coming to make it appetizing enough for them to want to jealously guard it? Like Theresa rightly said, deliberately want to own it. Because let us assume the homes are failing. Because really, people like Sadiq and I are failing. We are speaking English with our kids. We are not teaching them nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We are doxing them.
Yeah, exactly. We are creating global citizens, as you put it. So what about our heritage do you teach to them, and how do they accept it, understand it, and want to jealously guard it and proudly call themselves Ghanaian, as Theresa mentioned, so that eventually we can be getting somewhere?
First of all, I should explain that heritage is created in the present. See, we have so many things from the past, but it isn't everything from the past that becomes our heritage. It is those from the past that are of value to us today, those which are meaningful and relevant to our living conditions today, that becomes heritage. How do we ensure that the younger people get imbibed and interested in those aspects of life that have been bequeathed to us? It is by identifying the positive elements of what our forebears have left for us. Now, in doing so, we need to research, we need to be patient enough to understand that there is a lot that has made us to survive all these years of mental, psychological, and emotional torture since the days when our forebears were enslaved and sold, and the days when we were enslaved on our own land, called colonialism or colonization of the land. And realize that there has been a disconnect between who we are, or who we should be. To make our past relevant today, as I say, it's to ensure that we find out those which work and should be carried into the future, which will have those imaginaries. I'll give you an example. We've been looking at boxing in Jamestown, or Gamashi in general. To many, boxing is for commercial purposes, it's about violence and so on. But you go into Gamashi and you find out that boxing is part of their daily lives. It's what leads to social cohesion. It's what brings them together, promotes harmony among the people there. So you can't take it away from there. It's an aspect of life. So children are in the streets, boys and girls, and they partake in boxing on daily basis as part of the life of the people. So you only see those who want to go commercial in the ring. But even that, the supporters, everybody gets involved. Now, what I'm saying is this: there are so many things in our society that are of value. The announcer stories may be of value, but I should also mention that culture is not just limited to the material elements, what you wear, okay, alone. It is about our mindset, things that we learn. Okay, even our belief systems, you have to learn them. If they don't tell you that there's Jesus Christ, okay, and society does not talk about Jesus Christ, you will never grow up knowing about Jesus Christ. The same way, if they don't tell you that we have witches, you wouldn't know. But the situation is that we have been taken away from our language in the first place. Japan, China, and other societies are advancing faster than us because they have adhered to their language, they have adhered to their religion. And I should say that any country or any group of people that have lost their language and their religion find it difficult to move. We may say that English is global and we have to adopt it for the sake of our children finding jobs and so on and so forth. But it continuously places us in a situation where we don't have an identity.
But
If you want
Prof,
to
sorry to interrupt. Sorry,
Go
pardon
ahead.
me. I'm listening to you and I'm getting scared. So we want to choose a language. Which one? This country has over how many languages?
Dialect.
Which one do we pick as a language we want to grow with?
It does not really
Or which
matter-
religion do
it
we
does not
pick?
really matter which language you want to grow up with. When you are born, your parents speak a language to you, or they have a language. Okay, you must understand that first. You must be able to express yourself in it. English, you will go to school, you will learn how to speak English. Okay, and there's evidence that those who speak their local languages first speak English or any other foreign language better. Okay, so you would say the Chinese speak Chinese, but they also speak English. Many of them are in the streets today pretending not to know how to speak English, but they speak impeccable English. In our case, we think that speaking English is akin to intelligence. So when our children are rattling English, then we presume that they are intelligent. Meanwhile, they know absolutely nothing. We teach many children today, they come to school from some of these so-called international schools. Look at the way we even coined them, international schools. They speak English, they rattle English, but they come in and you want them to write. They fail to write properly. Okay? You want them to express themselves. They fail to do so. And when they blend in with those who have been trained in the so-called rural schools, okay, without going to the international schools, without rattling English, those from the rural schools come tops. They have the first classes. And our children going to the high-end international schools struggle to even make a third class. So what I'm saying is this: we must not think that our ways of life are inferior, but we have been conditioned to think that our life ways are inferior. So necessarily we clamor over things from the outside. The last example I'll give before I leave you to engage the rest of my colleagues here is this. It's that, you see, policymakers, the media, the so-called custodians of culture are all products of this same system which brings us up. To the extent that we have so many knowledgeable people in our country, and yet our leaders have to travel outside to look for experts to come and think about how we develop. How many times do they engage our local business people? Those are the Makula markets, control the economy in one way or the other. How many times do our leaders engage those are the Makula markets to learn from them? People can go to the university and claim that they are engineers, mechanical engineers, but when their cars break down, they come back to Kokompe, to the wayside mechanic. But how many times have we taken pains to say that there's something creative at the back of that young man at Kokompe, so let's engage them to learn from them? It's because we have been trained to feel so inferior to other societies in terms of language, in terms of religion, in terms of the way we even organize ourselves. So to go back and ensure that there is value in what we do and we get interested, let our children know the aspects of our life with that they can identify with. Let them see themselves in the culture. Don't necessarily speak English to them because that could give them opportunities. What we need to do is to understand that we are not a closed society. We develop because people are creative within, people are innovative, but we also learn from our neighbors of the world, those we interact with on daily basis through the media or in-person interaction. But the most important thing is, how do we use what we learn to fit our context here? If it's not relevant to our local context, then we must not be clamoring over it. We borrow so many things from the outside that will not fit our context here, but we apply them because I've studied economics in school, and according to Professor so and so from Harvard, this is the way we should be going, and we apply it. It doesn't work. So what is the cultural context within which we apply all this we borrow from the external world? The media today, we have digital media. How are we using the digital media to propagate, to disseminate information on who we are? Do we know our environment? Do we even understand what we do? Festivals. We now stage festivals to satisfy the foreigner who we have labeled as a tourist. We don't even think about ourselves. But do we understand the value of that festival? How do we promote it using digital media? We are talking about high life. How do we even understand the genesis of high life and how it has metamorphosed over the time? High life being a medium through which we propagate our philosophies, our social situation, and even our material conditions. Have we taken pains to do that? So we divorce high life from hip life, and from these days we have what is called dancehall. But it's all high life. Okay. Have we analyzed what the younger people are doing? Okay, using music, using song as a way of promoting social cohesion, harmony, and even as social commentary, commenting on things that are happening daily. We don't. We take it for granted. Okay. So there's something in there. What the hip life musicians are doing is part of our culture.
Interesting.
What the raga people are doing is part of our culture. It is for us to sit and analyze and ensure that it is not just for dancing. I said that the cellular phones we use today, the smartphones, are not just for saying, oh, sending photographs and say, oh, you are beautiful, or I love you. No, it is for research. Are we using it to research our own ways of life?
Interesting.
And propagating that.
Okay.
So those are the things we should be doing, so that if whether or not you speak English to your child, the child will know an aspect of Dagbani, Hausa, okay, Ewe, and so on, Ga, and understand how to speak those and know how to speak those much more fluently than English.
Than the English language. Very interesting. And that is the voice of Professor Kojo Gavua, Department of Archaeology and Heritage Studies, University of Ghana, Legon. It's Ghana Month on Joy 99.7 FM. This is Showbiz A to Z, and we're talking about how to strengthen our cultural and creative industries for national development. Mr. Mike Monkwafu, we've mentioned a lot of problems. It looks like all across the room. I mean, problems. Some have also argued that all these problems can be solved when we effectively harness our cultural and creative industries. Would you agree? If so, how can we go about some of these?
100%. I agree 100%. Recently my posture has all been, I believe that if we're going to come out from our socioeconomic, I don't want to use words that are kind of fatalistic, but we are in a lurch. You get it. It's clear that we are at some kind of crossroads. Clearly, culture is expression.
It is.
So you cannot tie it into parameters that are defined by scientific whatever. It's very organic, and it's something that's growing all the time. Like Prof was, in fact, why did he ask me to talk? The guy said everything. But the thing is, let's take music for example.
Yeah.
It's progressed, hasn't it?
It has.
It's still the same beats. If you look at, I don't know the technical things, but I'm sure if you brought Zap here, for example, he will tell you that the cadences and rhythms and things have been sustained, but at different pitches, that kind of thing. And so music has evolved.
Yeah.
But it's still very much our own. If you take our food, Prof, you didn't mention food. If you take our food, for example, it is major. The reason why touch food is for me to launch into the greater problem, which is fundamentally the fact that they didn't only influence our mindset, but generally they took everything away. Even what we eat, we don't even make toothpicks, do we?
No, we don't.
Yes, so
We import them.
it's like somebody comes into your culture, stops whatever you are doing, and places what he thinks will work for you, and then ignites you or triggers you, and then you are on, rolling out all his expectations. That's why we keep saying that if we do not actually set a deliberate agenda, which will look at the problems and look going forward what to do. We belong to a global village. The world is actually a better place to be in now because there's a lot of overlaps and so on. If you go on the internet, for example, I remember when I was a student, when I would go to school, I'll carry a whole encyclopedia of books, and it was always in my locker, and I used them for my references and so on. Today, all you need is your phone, a little gadget in your hand. The world is at your fingertips. So we are looking at all this unfolding, and it is clear that technology has brought us where we can twist things in whichever direction we want to go. So it's important to define your direction. Once we know the kind of communication that we want to do to ourselves and to the world, it will now define what kind of preparations must go into it. It's not just education, it is everything. It is our architecture. You get. Now, let me give the instance of Dubai, for example. The other day I was saying that Dubai did not start to become Dubai because they had oil. They started to become Dubai because they were running out of oil.
Yeah.
So the next level was, man, we are sinking. So what can we do to save ourselves? Bottom line. So here we are almost at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to the economies of the world. You get my drift. Here we are in Africa, in Ghana specific, where our crisis is fundamentally because our people are not productive. Why are they not productive? Because the modes of expression have been stifled in a lot of ways by the kind of practice that has been going on, including the persistence of the kind of education that we give our children. I watch a lot of National Geographic and those things, and I look at the animals, and I'm amazed at how even they understand their culture. It is clear, and nobody defies it. They fall in place, and the animals do it the way they expect their little groups to do it. We are higher animals, and I believe that the economies of the world that are doing well because they have stable cultures. Come to us. We have not been able to come up with the blueprints that define how we want to express ourselves, not just in language, not just in our performance culture or our visual culture or the kind of thing that we want to invite our people, the rest of the world to come and look at. But it is also the fact that we need to define so many things, including our ethics. Take architecture. If you go anywhere beyond us, let's say Britain, they have what they call planning commission.
Yeah.
It means that if you live in a certain area, they have defined the kind of houses that should be there.
That should be there.
If you go to another place, they do a different thing. And trust me, if you don't conform, they'll pull your building down.
Yeah.
So discipline is one of the expressions of culture. Values is one of them. Norms are one of them because the norms will develop, but they are molded by values. Take our institutions, including media. Now, media is a very dicey area because I keep saying that there are 3 P's that define the way our people think. 1, priests, pastors. Okay, maybe the politicians should come first. But priests, politicians, and pressmen. Because we are the people listen to. You stand in your pulpit and everybody goes to church on Sunday, except maybe me. You know?
Same me.
Well, there's another one here.
You don't go
we
to
don't have
church?
anything against church.
Why don't you go to church?
I'll tell you, I won't tell you why I don't go to church, but I'll tell you what I believe about church. That church is not the place you go to. Church is who you are.
Interesting.
Church is who you are. In fact, you are the church. It is not the place you go to. So if you carry the same garbage and go and sit in church every Sunday and come out of that church and continue to express that garbage out there, what use is it? Do you get my drift?
I get
and
your
that is
drift.
one of the first problems, because religion folds your expectations of this life. So if the religion is skewed, then you have a problem. I'm a Christian, but when I look out there, I don't see any Christ there, because it's been turned into something else. So a whole country is suffering a setback because there's a mind capture where people do not understand that diligence is what pays off. They think it's tithes that will make them successful and not diligence. You see, so there's a dissonance, complete dissonance. That is what culture is. The culture is supposed to be something that you deliberately use to format the way you want to express yourself, first to yourselves and to the rest of the world, because you have neighbors. So when you take religion and you take education and you take governance and you take all these things, these 3 P's control it. Now the politicians, the policy makers, now we are saying to them, as I sit here and we are speaking, that it is time for you to look at developing our country with a people bias. You know, it should be a human resource development thing. We should not continue to think that what the colonialists did is what is going to sustain us. We still export timber and cocoa and things in its raw state, produce. We are not doing products. Well, thank God I can see that even that is changing. Now you can see, just this morning I used shea butter that's been beautifully packaged and so on, not in some kukusi. you get.
Yeah, I get you.
So over time, yes, the external influences are also molding our culture. But it's on a number of levels. Like you said about legacy, it is the sum total of what is good that you derive from your culture and your past. You sustain it into your present. So we are talking about contemporary culture here, which is dynamic, which is been influenced and so on. But you need to define the direction that you're going.
Exactly.
Look at the East. Okay. They actually go into isolation sometimes, just to keep out the West. What are we doing? We keep our doors open and anything can walk in. So if we want to make a big difference in terms of development, it is time for us, once again, maybe I don't have too many words to use, to be deliberate.
To be deliberate.
Yes.
I think that would be the apt way to capture it. A message here says, George, no country can have a sustained development by using someone else's language. We are our own cause. Our schools demonize the speaking and teaching of our Ghanaian languages. How many of us took the study of Ghanaian languages seriously back in secondary school? In fact, policymakers at the onset of the current educational system struck out the study of Ghanaian languages at the secondary schools. Once we neglected our languages, we neglected our culture. Fred Frimpong Befi inside Oyibi Estate. Madam Teresa, you sit at a place where you play a very significant role in Ghana's music space. Sadiq as well. You manage the biggest, inarguably the biggest music award show in Ghana, the Ghana Music Awards, which is unveiling its nominees as we speak. Some of us, and I'm one of them, and I think I've also heard Sadiq make that argument, that if we want our music to get that global recognition that we're asking for, we want our musicians to perform on big stages, have big collabos, they should sing in English. But listening to this conversation, could we perhaps be shooting ourselves in the foot? Or would it still be the way to sort of use that to lure some global attention and then quickly turn around and push our culture to the rest of the world?
I don't think there's one fast rule of how to get to any destination. I don't believe there's one fast rule. You must do it this way only, because so many other ways have also proven successful. You have the likes of Osibisa, who sang in English,
yeah.
but used the crisscross rhythms of Africa
Yeah.
as they described their music.
Yeah.
And they got international recognition. But you have people also like Angelique Kidjo,
Salif Keita.
Salif Keita,
Yeah.
and all of them who have used their traditional
dialect.
rhythms to have also gained international recognition and all of that. So there's no really had a fast rule. And then you have, in recent times, you have the Wizkids
Yeah.
who have also used English and pidgin English, which is also a cultural development. To also gain, cut across and all of that. So there's no hard and fast rule. I think when it comes to music, it's really about the connection. The connection someone has with your music. It could be through the rhythm, it could be through the words, it could be through a mix of everything that we are enjoying from listening to your works. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule about what you should do to get international. It's really about the connection. Are you connecting with what people want to hear? Are you connecting with what they want to talk about? Are you connecting with the season and the times? So it's really one of those dynamic things that you really can't put your finger on as to what is the right way to do. So usually you would look at what somebody has done, and since that was successful, you think that's the way to go. But I don't think there's just one way to go.
One way to
Yeah.
go. Okay, Uncle Ken, since you also deal with music, from across the globe, if I should put it that way, we listen to Ken's music mix on Thursdays, and you start from the African source, and then you go into the vintage music show where you don't play music from Africa, and then you go into Soul Serenade,
Where I
where
also don't
you don't
play
play music from Africa.
Yeah.
You understand? So, would you say that music itself is also a cultural tool that is part of the problem that we have here?
Yes, I would. I would say that. I've been sitting here feeling very guilty because of what you just alluded to.
Being deliberate and intentional. You haven't been deliberate and intentional enough.
George did it on purpose. Because he knows that I deviate from what we are talking about with my music, but that is why my music is described as specialized.
Exactly.
But Ken, not to cut you short, could it be that maybe we do not have enough of a collection of the kind of music that fits into the mood of music you're trying to play? I don't know. If you're playing slow music, do we have enough slow music? If you're playing jazzy music,
as for slow music, man, I can tell you we don't have enough.
Do we have enough jazzy music?
Yeah.
So could it be that?
No.
Because really, if you want to play slow music,
we don't have enough.
Do we have enough of
we
that?
don't have enough.
Ask George Quaye.
That one I can tell you for sure. We don't have enough. Look, I have been struggling to find enough slow Ghanaian music to keep up Ghana Month
Because no one wants to do
on
the
the Late Night
squeeze,
Express.
squeeze.
Exactly.
Yes,
There are different moods
I have been
when
struggling.
you want to listen
Yes,
to
but you
different
see,
kinds of music.
Sami has been telling me the same thing.
how many? Yes,
been having
yes,
problems.
Sadiq.
You need like a huge catalog.
Yes, you need a very huge car. We don't have that huge. You end up playing Kojointri and Dadilumba all day. No, seriously.
No.
Maybe Kwabna, Akwabwa, but even then, it is not that slow.
Do you have George Quaye?
Look,
No, to answer Teresa's
Yes.
question to me, that's not the reason
Okay.
why I play the kind of music I play. I play the kind of music I play because we just want to give people a different feel of music from somewhere else. Because the rest of the day, all the other programs play the sort of music you're talking about. And don't forget, my shows are weekly.
yeah.
Ken, let me save you. Don't feel guilty. The music you play
Yeah,
derives from here.
exactly.
It's
I was going to say, growing up,
Yeah.
growing up, I went to a primary school. One of the reasons why I say I feel very guilty today. I went to a primary school, Achimota Primary School, in the late 50s, early 60s, and I tell you what, it was an offense to speak vernacular.
Up to today.
Well, I don't know about
It
today,
was
but
an offense,
Today-
and
It
a
was at the time.
serious
Go to the
offense.
high
Yeah.
schools.
They'll punish you.
Yes,
Yes.
to speak vernacular at Achimota Primary
Yeah.
School. So those of us who managed to speak our local languages did so by the tuition from our parents at home, back at home. you know. And I can tell you that there were a lot of Achimota primary kids that I went to school with who cannot speak vernacular.
Yeah.
Because the parents, as you're saying, also spoke English with them
At home.
at home. And then the music. Back then, the music was very universal. We had our bands, the BB bands, Black Beats, barbecues, Uhuru, Ramblers, Sweet Beans.
You don't know them.
They were playing typical Ghanaian music.
Yeah.
And they were doing so because there was a lot of nightlife. A lot of nightlife. And so because there was a lot of nightlife, we went out, listened to them, we loved the music, and we infused it with the phonograms, which were mostly imported, American soul music and stuff like that, the British pop coming in, because the phonograms who came to set up here wanted to sell their own thing. And we got used to that kind of music as we grew up. Fortunately, the bands that were playing at that time were so good that the high life music we also loved.
It was at its best.
It was at its best at the time, and we loved that kind of music. So we blend. That is why with me, I am not pigeonholed when it comes to music appreciation. I love all kinds of good music. So long as it's good music, that will do for me. So Teresa, that's the reason why my shows play the kind of music that I
you
play.
play.
Because if I don't play them, you hardly hear them anywhere
On
else.
radio, yeah, that is
You
true.
were mentioning Salif Keita, you were mentioning Yuzundu,
Yeah.
and these guys from the other. I mean, you look at the way they blend their local instruments and sing in their own dialects and local languages, yet they have so much respect out there in the outside world. And music, to me, when people complain about why do we sing in local language, we should add English to it, and we should do this. Maybe today's world, Sadiq will tell you, today's world requests that you do that to get a wider audience.
But does it? Really?
Oh yes.
It does.
Today's world, it does.
It does.
You need to reach out to a lot of people. And thank you.
Is it demand diversifying, or is it a certain cultural imposition? Someone has deliberately created a market to push his language. Is that what it is?
It's come very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me touch it, but I'll go back a little.
Okay.
When we're shooting Heritage Africa,
Yeah.
that was a film by Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
Something happened. We had a troupe from the School of Performing Arts. These were students.
Yeah.
And they came to perform a scene where there's what they call a fetish dance, all right?
Yes.
And then the drumming and things were going. And one of the girls actually got possessed.
Wow.
Yeah. They had to go and bring some people to come in before it
Wow.
went away. But that is what music does. It's an expression. I see how people just flow around Shatawale. Good. I mean, he gets to Kumasi and there's this whole cottage.
Yeah.
You know,
a motor kid.
he is resonating with his crowd. Traditionally, when they built a drum, for example, I'll tell you the kind of things that went into it. They believe that the tree where the stock was coming from has a spirit. Apart from that, they believe that there's a resident spirit. So they will appease the resident spirit because it's like, Charlie, we are taking over your space.
Your space,
So
yeah.
They will do something for him to go and find somewhere else. Then they will appease the tree spirit itself, all right, before they cut it down. Now, when they cut it down, now the people who are doing these things were farmers and, peasants. But I keep saying that the African is creative by nature.
True.
So the people who were farmers and things did other things. So the carvers were artists, but they were not just artists. They were also priests in a sense, because he will pour libation or whatever before he would do his work. Now, even his tools, he would have sanctified in the same mode and so on. Now, when he carves the drum, you find all these expressions on it, the idioms, the symbols and things. They are all a capture of the communal expression. It goes into the drum visually, you see it. Now something else goes into the drum. After they built the drum, they invoke the spirits of whatever clan to come into the drum. Okay? Then
Wow.
they finish with that. Now, the day that there's a festival or that outing, when they roll out the drum and beat on it, what they are doing is that they are doing an invocation at different levels. These things kept the community together. So when you go to a festival, it's not just them celebrating and having fun. It's an expression of their beliefs.
True.
So today, if we want to look at our musicians and the kind of things they play, what is the content? Because you was referring to the days of Ramblers and so on. There was content. If you listen to any highlight from that time, it was like our soft this and things from that same time. They had messages. Nana
Ampedu, the late.
listen to his music. He was communicating.
Yeah.
So today, what is Shatawale communicating? What is Kwabna communicating? What is Kwame Eugene communicating? Because if you look at the voice from the other side, and you listen to their music, there is substance. There's a certain substance. I beg you, don't diss me.
No. They would.
They should tolerate small because I'm just letting.
Sadiq said Shatawale is
Sadiq
communicating.
here. Okay, good.
Entertainment.
There you go. You know,
Entertainment value.
so when it is deliberate, it does not only appeal to your emotions.
Yeah.
It will also appeal to your senses and then appeal to your intellect. Then the music becomes more wholesome. I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting all those ingredients in and enriching what we're putting out
Exactly.
I like where we are.
Exactly.
I like where we are now.
Yes.
You know, Uncle Ken, did you finish your submission?
Oh, yeah.
You did. Now, Sadiq, you still believe that English is important because the world, the market currently demands it. Yeah. But wouldn't you also agree that perhaps because the Salif Keiters and stuff, those who are Angelique Kidjos, they are still not singing in English?
George, so you see,
Angelique is one of the most rewarded artists from Africa as far as the Grammys is concerned, and she doesn't even sing English.
So George, if you are speaking about this, we need to look at the eras and the forces of the market within that particular eras. You understand? For Grammys, which is a much more technical award, in appreciating Angelique's music or creative piece award, there's a lot more focus on the technical abilities of it. Burna Boy went in to win later after he called the likes of PDD to executive produce the album that he produced. So the focus was heavily on the end of the technical value of it. You know, how it was produced, how it was mixed, how it was mastered, you know, and all of those things, and not necessarily the content per se. But if you look at the market forces today, right, and what controls it, if you are a super commercial artist and not somebody just doing music for to advance a certain heritage, you know, you would have to understand how it's got into. Yeah. If you're a much more commercial artist today, you're looking to harness the biggest audience, or the biggest streams, or the biggest whatever. And so understanding that in reaching to that or harnessing that big, diverse audience as much as possible, you need to understand the things that resonate with them. And language is but very important. So you realize last year, for instance, your biggest hit song in Ghana that went on and gathered that much more streams across the world is Touch It. What was Touch It delivered in?
He didn't sing it. So
and then when you take it away from that, the recent examples you would have with Burna Boy, Whiskey, the Davido. Look, apart from Kiddy, the song that went on to achieve platinum status at the Brits, CK song, Love 120, was delivered in English, in a language that resonates mainly with the biggest users of music today, the Gen Zs. So the market forces is but very important. You may have lost something, but today, for a lot of the people that are driven by commercial interests and harnessing biggest audience and everything, and of course today you cannot talk about impact to enabling the creative industry without its connections to globalization. Technology or digitalization has created a very even playing field, for instance. And so even whilst you're looking to maintain cultural heritage and all of those things, you cannot discard the influences of the on-trend sound or activities on what you do. For instance, hip life. And I like the fact that Prof, for instance, mentioned hip life because hip life is a varied form of hip hop, but it was created by Ghanaians, and so you would have a certain cultural element of it which is unique to us, but it's essentially hip hop. You know, and so you cannot talk about enabling the arts today or creative culture and creative industries without the connections it has to, I mean, the global world and the access, I mean, the opportunities it gives to all of you that are here. Because, I mean, it gets to a particular point in time. If all of us in the creative industry today, for us to really open up and make more money, which assets or enable us or develop us, we would have to go beyond the market. I've always made the point that they say the marketing budget per annum in the country is 300 million cedis. And the 300 million cedis is the money that's actually oiling all the creative activities in this town, plus marketing and all of these things. It is very small.
Woefully.
And so within the last 1 year, we've seen that we've begun to package some of these creative enterprises for the likes of YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music and co, who are using us as a focal point to advance certain things. And that's the only way we can survive, because we cannot survive on that 300 million cities. That's it.
Interesting.
It's a generational thing.
Because yes, I mean, and I've always made the point, at every point in time, for instance, for music and the audience, the biggest users of creative products are usually between the ages of, say, 16 to 24. The biggest users.
Yeah, definitely.
The extended is 24 to 34.
34.
And it is their activity with the creative products that actually creates what becomes hits, what becomes what is it, or which sound or which genre rides high. And then the Gen Z today, they have a different, so whether you like it, look,
Use
you've
your
lost them.
microphone, yeah.
They have a different set of beliefs, different set of
So
understanding.
Sadiq, hold on.
Yeah.
And Chief, what Sadiq is saying is that, and this goes to all of us, because once upon a time, I believed music appreciation was not a matter of language, but a matter of rhythm.
Okay. Exactly.
From what you're saying,
there was
now
an
it's
era-
changed. It's
there
a
was an
matter
era-
of language.
Yes, per Mike Amonkwafu's era, for instance, that era, I don't know what the characteristics for that era. They appreciated message. Today,
Okay.
they appreciate the entertainment value. Touch
Yes.
it. People will sing "Touch It" and bend that. He doesn't actually know
I think you should
what he
say
said, but he's
they
dancing
they
to it.
appreciate adrenaline.
Entertainment value, entertainment
Spot
value
on.
and the experience it gives them is what they are
It's what they are high on.
This
This one says, my line of work involves communicating with clients. I always speak Chi, and that becomes a problem most of the time. They just want me to speak English, bro, but I insist on my Chi. Some old, others young. The young ones will pass on these thoughts to their children, and the cycle continues. If care is not taken, what is Ghanaian will be alien to our children and grandchildren. Short time, I'm sure he means some time to come. I've listened to some women rubbish some Ghanaian male names on national radio just because they think it is horrible and their children can't be called such. It is really sad, bro. That is from Nana Kwesi. Now, this one says, good show, George. You guys have made the Ghana month so beautiful and meaningful. I'm loving this. Great show. That is Fred from Oyibi. Let me see if I can do one more. Okay, this one says, good evening, George. We live here in Sweden, and in the kindergarten, we are advised to speak our language to our kids at home, as this will help them in their learning process. My kid speaks Ato, Sweden. My kid, okay, learning process. My kid speaks. Okay, that's from Ato inside Sweden. So Ato, you're Ghanaian, so does it mean you speak Chi with your kids at home? This one says, no vernacular instruction in our schools. No vernacular instruction in our schools has really affected our culture. This coupled with the mindset that everything of ours is not good, or every traditional rite is fetish, is also a problem. It is those harmful traditional practices like FGM and others that must be done away with, not our languages. Okay, Frederick from Oyibi Estate sent that one, and let me take a last one. This one says, George, please, let's not chastise Uncle Ken too much. I know most African songs because of his Thursday show, which I have been listening to for the past 24 years. Abeku inside Atibubu. Uncle Ken, your fans are reacting. Okay, I see something on Sarkodie here. Says, Sarkodie has proven that our local language can cross borders. The truth is what the professor said. We have been conditioned to feel inferior. Okay, Chief.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, yes, definitely. Tweet at us at Showbiz A to Z. At Joy 99.7, hashtag Showbiz A to Z. Tweet at us at Joy 99.7, hashtag Showbiz A to Z. You can send your messages on our WhatsApp line at 055 1111 997. Leon.
Yeah.
Prof mentioned religion,
Yeah.
right?
Great.
And we've just read a message that says we've made a lot of our cultural stuff look fetish.
Yeah.
When you go to is it Mexico that celebrates the Day of the Dead?
Yeah, it's Mexico.
Mexico
Yeah.
has the Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
When you go to Indian, they have all these things that they may look fetish
Yeah.
to you, and all those Buddhas and all that, but it's their culture, it's
Yeah.
their tradition.
Yeah.
They celebrate it.
Yeah.
Could it be that a lot of this conversation we're having is also a problem with a lot of our churches?
You mean religion, right? So there's
Specifically our churches, not religion, because even our traditional rights is also religion.
Yeah.
So I want to.
Yeah, okay, you mean Christianity and Islam?
Not even Christianity and
Yeah.
Islam. A lot of our churches
Okay.
demonize some of these
yeah,
things.
Yeah, let me approach it from this angle, because this is a topic that is very dear to my heart,
Yeah.
and because I'm an artist and I engage in all of these, and these
Yeah.
conversations come up, right? Can we truly develop whilst using a foreigner's language? Can we truly develop in Africa while Islam and Christianity are the dominant religions, right? Absolutely. Now, there's the reality check. There's no reality in our foreseeable future, 100, 200, 300 years from now, where we're going to reverse the tides, where English and French and Portuguese is going to lose its, dominance, at least in the formal sector, where Islam and Christianity is going to reduce and traditional religion as we knew it is going to take over. So how then do we navigate this reality? Africa, for example, in languages, is the most diverse continent when it comes to languages. We have 1/3 of global languages. Out of about 6,000 languages in the world, Africa alone has about 2,000. Europe has just 300. So already we have a deep reality that we have to deal with. Now, when you say that, let's say Ghana, for example, if we say would use Twi as an official language, Twi is foreign to about 60% of the population.
True.
So even with them, then they have to adopt a foreign language. And they say, forget about the proximity. If you are a northerner, if you are an Ewe, Twi is foreign to you. So whether you are using Twi or you are using English, really, it is foreign to you. So the reality of whether we can use a local language, I think that debate is not going to be productive, because it's not going to happen. But what is important, that is not to admit that our local languages are not important, but what is important is to ensure that our local languages are not extinct. Now, some of them will be extinct. That's just the nature of, human progression. If you have a continent with 2,000 languages, the lesser ones will be consumed by the, the dominant ones. And languages spread either through trade or through conquest. Conquest, not very much anymore. Trade, that's why Twi is very popular, because it's a language of trade across the country. So organically, as the decades go by, Twi may even become more popular, right? Hausa became very popular because it was a language of trade, across West Africa and all of that. Yes. When it comes to religion too, Christianity and Islam have been here for thousands of years. In fact, in Islam, right at the very beginning of Islam's, development in Arabia, it was here in Africa. Europe, Christianity is not a European religion. Do we know that? Christianity is a Middle Eastern religion. It's developed from that belt, Islam and but Europe adopted Christianity, made it their own, brought it here. What we have to understand, and that's where we need thought leaders. Religion is a vehicle of spirituality, but it's also a vehicle of culture. So whoever is bringing you the culture introduces their rituals. A lot of those rituals sometimes do not have any bearing necessarily on the message, on the spirituality of the message. So when the Europeans introduced Christianity to West Africa, it came with their culture, the way you dress. So playing drums in the church back then was seen as devilish. Wearing a traditional cloth was seen as devilish, until people began to rebel against these ideas, right? I'm Muslim. My name is Abdul Mumin Muslim, right?
It's Arabic.
It's purely Arabic. If I go to an international convention and meet other Muslims, you may meet a Chinese Muslim with a Chinese name, a European Muslim with a European name, an Arabic Muslim with an Arabic name, but I am an African Muslim with an Arabic name. Now there's a greater consciousness happening that as a Muslim, I don't have to have an purely Arabic name to legitimize my being a Muslim. So now a lot of people are going back to look for local names. So that's what must happen. Africa must undergo a renaissance where we think through the reality for our situation. Look, Islam and Christianity is not going anywhere. English and Portuguese is not going anywhere, at least anytime soon within our world frame. Maybe after 1,000 years, when things change, when the nature of our societies that we know have completely been upended, then things may change. So the question is then, how do we navigate the realities of it? And I think some of the musicians have shown us the way. Look, the Nigerians are singing in English, but they are singing in their own kind of interpretation of English. This debate was had between Ngugi wa Thiong'o and Chinua Achebe. Can you write African literature in English and still call it African literature? And the almost consensus was that, well, that is the language we're using. So how can we use language or English in such a way that at least it mimics our local reality? So you are reading English, things fall apart in English, but
you're getting
there's
the
a
tradition,
there's
the
yeah there's
culture.
there's an Igbo essence to it. You are reading Amatedu English, but there's a
Ghanaian.
can't essence to
feel
it. So
to
for
it.
me, it's about we the creators now. These are the tools that we have. These tools are not going to change. How then do we navigate the use of these tools in such a way that we do not deprive ourselves of our essence, but continue to regenerate ourselves even with the tools that we have? And that for me is the question of our cultural leaders today and thought leaders. So English, yes, is still going to be, but how then do we use it? And how then do we ensure that it doesn't completely overshadow our local language? So yes, let's teach it in schools, but at least parents should speak to their children, or at least children in basic in homes, should speak local dialects. But we also have a problem if you have a parent from two different ethnic groups. So sometimes
Which one do you speak?
Yeah, no, but the thing is that it's difficult because that's the reality. Because some people, if you're not, let's say you're a Tree, you're an Akan, you're married to an Ewe or to a Northerner, and you can't speak the local languages of each other, you end up speaking English as a common language. So that is why in some homes, sometimes it's just organic. The children just pick up because that's the language of communication, and that's the reality. But as Madam Teresa said, we have to be deliberate. We have to understand the reality, the problem, so that our prescriptions would be tailored. But we can't just make blanket statement like, oh, if we use English we can never progress. If we use, then Africa will never progress, because that's the reality of our situation. That reality will not change within this particular dispensation of humanity that we are in.
In fact, the conversation that's being had today relative to enabling the culture and creative industry is nothing about language, essentially.
Yeah.
And people are looking at.
But how can it
today,
not
today.
be about language?
Because,
Language. Look, for me, I think language is key in this conversation.
It is, but I mean, people are finding the common languages that are connecting the biggest people. Look, when you go even on Netflix, the Netflix guys will tell you there are movies or content that are on it that were originally in certain languages, but they tell you perhaps the English language that is actually getting more attention.
Yeah.
All the movies that have gained more attention. Look, what's the last movie for West Africa that everybody was talking about? King of Boys.
King of
What
Boys,
was it
yeah.
rendered in?
It's English.
Yeah, but
isn't it?
Sadiq, and the question to
I get
Sadiq,
it.
yeah.
So I get it. It's the variation
Yeah.
and what we do, like it within the context
Yeah.
of being deliberate,
Yeah.
right? Of what we add to it, or creating our own variations of what is actually existing currently. When you go to the francophone countries, for instance,
It's a different-
that common language is what has made it possible for Aya Nakamura, for instance, who is Malian and based in Paris, to become the queen of streaming in Europe.
Francophone.
It is that.
Yeah.
So people are finding the commonalities and creating the variations and adding theirs to it. So for instance, I could listen to the videos, she know one designer. Go back into time, you'd see a certain level of, there'll be that element of juju music somehow
Somewhere
in
in
there
there.
somewhere. And that's actually what makes it unique. So it's a take, because it's Afrobeat, it's Afropop.
Yeah.
It is their take of a global on-trend sound.
So Sadiq, my
what we've
question,
got into
Sadiq,
now-
let me
Oh,
introduce a question
hold on,
here.
hold on. Before you
yeah.
introduce the question,
Yeah.
before we have just about less than an hour to go. So I want us to do something. Do we agree that in the last hour or so we've just been speaking about music and visuals, maybe audio visuals
No,
generally?
there was heritage and
No, but mostly
In terms of
the last.
context, yeah.
Yes,
Separate
I mean
all this from heritage.
it's all-
you can't. It's all part
Because
of it.
that's popular.
It is all part of
Your
it.
question.
Yes.
I've been listening to.
You've been listening
the
to
gentlemen.
the young men, eh?
Well, they are not. Yeah, they are younger men.
That's a very good way to
Sorry,
put
the
it.
small boys. The small boys.
What you see, the point is, I made it earlier that it is not about what we are getting from the external world, from our neighbors of the world.
Yeah.
It's how we use that in relation to our context. It's like the cloth we wear and name it African prints. These are produced in Harlem, in the Netherlands, and then produced in Manchester. But we have appropriated that fabric and we use it in our local context: birthday, anniversary, funeral, political party, church, school, and so on.
True.
Okay.
Even our girls have a taste for foreign
various
schnapps.
levels. Thank you. You go to the palace, they tell you, "I have seen some." And then, if you send a locally produced one, they'll tell you no.
They like
And
the foreign
maybe
one.
Sooner than later, they'll be drinking vodka.
The girls must be crazy.
The key thing is that how are we using whatever we are borrowing and learning from the external world
True.
to fit our local context and to make value of who we are. That is the essence of it. Okay. But just to finish up, I'll say that the creative arts are what we can hold on to and move on as a nation. In every market, you need an identity. You can't just enter the market and say, I'm also here. What is our identity in the global marketplace in the first place? Many of the examples you cited, they go to the global marketplace with a particular identity. We just want to position ourselves as a melting pot. Anything goes. That's not working for us. But policymakers, performers, all of us must realize that the creative arts are aspects of what we have that have not yet been stolen, because it's mentally based.
Exactly.
They can take our gold, and they've taken it. They've taken the diamonds. They haven't taken our people, human
They are
beings.
taking our oil.
The oil, everything. Okay? Because those are tangible. But what is embedded in our minds, they have not been able to loot them all. Okay, you see them making efforts. You come to a school of performing arts. The largest number of foreign students at the universities go to the performing arts. They think they can steal Adoa, Palogo, and so on. But mind you, they dance in straight lines. We dance in contours. So no matter how they learn how to dance Adoa,
They will not be able to
cannot
master
get
it. Exactly.
It's like learning how to drum Palogo or Bobobo or Agbaja.
Yeah.
When a new master drummer is introduced, the rhythm changes.
Exactly. True.
So there's no particular formula.
Yeah.
It's spontaneity. Okay, call and response, but spontaneity is very important. But those are the things that make us unique and what we can package and sell on the global stage. And not music alone, the creative arts in general. Look at our cane weavers.
You see, but those are the ones that we call the lesser known.
Cane products.
We don't give them any
Cane
visibility.
products
Yeah.
are extremely expensive when you get outside this country.
Very true.
But look
Very
at where
true.
the cane weavers are.
Yeah.
Under the scorching sun.
Yeah.
And we sack them from one place to the other because somebody wants to construct a building there.
Yeah.
To sell some other people's products.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not helping our nation. We must begin to pay attention to the creative arts in particular. Music and other aspects of the creative arts, like the cane weavers I mentioned, like the carvers, okay? The textiles producers.
The visual artists.
Yes. And again, I'll borrow the word from my colleague here. Be deliberate in investing in those. We must not deal with them as an afterthought. Oh, let the musicians come and perform. And then after performing, give them 2 bottles of apateshi. Okay? Or give them some Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You are not motivating them enough. It's because we don't believe in it.
In fact, we don't respect
We
them.
don't respect them at all. Okay? And that is part of our being. So we should be deliberate in making sure that we promote not only, we have to invest in it, invest in the creative arts. Okay? And that's what the creative artists have been calling on for a very long time. Our poets, our comedians. Okay? Nigeria has been deliberate in promoting their comedians.
Yeah. Very.
King Sonny Ade and others came to learn high life in Ghana. Okay? And they went international. For us, we dance to them. Those days you can go to Wato and dance to good music.
Yeah.
The coup d'etats curtailed nightlife and live performance. But you know what? Those good musicians have been appropriated by the church. Bobowa music has been appropriated by the church. They are taking it away from the secular domain and sending it into that religious domain.
It's true.
And yet, they do that and they demean other aspects of our life ways. So, and promote Western European values. It's on Sunday that you see people dressed like Europeans most. Okay? And then you see some of these priests, even if the congregation can speak Chi, they necessarily have to speak in English. and
To be
get someone
translated. To translate.
So what are we
In fact,
doing?
in bad English.
Yes. Okay. All we are doing is to promote somebody else's culture. Okay. At the end of it all, they will tell you, Pastor is traveling to America, so let's contribute some money for him.
Yeah.
He comes back with a set of musical instruments. It's like we are building warehouses I could not call them chapels. They are warehouses where we generate money 24/7. Morning church, afternoons, evening, every day of the week, whilst people need to be working. So thinking creatively and critically has been curtailed to a large extent. We are hoping for miracles. So it's the miracle industry now. You were asking about church. That's why I'm bringing
Yes,
this in.
exactly.
So
Yeah, I
this
did.
is the miracle industry where we are packaging and selling hope instead of encouraging people to be critical minded, thinking about who they are and their society, the world in which we find ourselves today. But that is not happening. That is how we are taking our culture away from ourselves in the informal way. The formal way through the schools, now social media and the media. Okay, let's try to be deliberate in promoting aspects of our culture. It is not enough to say that, oh, excuse me, I have a beautiful lady here. But let me just make this point. We have been made to even see our beauty in the image of the Caucasian. So God has given us beautiful hair, but we say that it is difficult to maintain natural hair. So we wear the artificial hair, and we also flip it on TV with pride. And then even the men, we clamor over it. But think about the volumes, okay, of hair pieces we import every week and the accessories to maintain them. So we are protecting the factories outside this continent. We are generating income for the producers outside this continent, and we are creating employment for people outside the continent. And yet we say we are poor.
So that's the direct link between the creative arts.
I've got to
and
take a break.
industry.
I've got to take a break. No, it's 5 o'clock. You're still tuned in to Joy 99.7 FM at Showbiz A to Z. We have just about an hour or so to bring the show to a close. Now, when we come back from this break, is every aspect of our culture very necessary to keep? Because some have argued that there are some aspects that actually demean women, quote unquote. You look at something like Depot, where young women are made to strip, should I put it that way? When we come back from the break,
but
and
that's
then
because we're looking at
parade,
the
hold
culture
on,
through the
and
European
then
lens.
and then parade. So we'll because some feminists have spoken against it.
Yeah.
That why is it not the men who are going to walk naked and parade themselves for society? Why should it be the women
but
who should
it is
walk
Western
naked?
Christian
Don't
values
worry,
that
hold
put
on.
a particular
When we come
premium
back
on the
from the
woman's body.
break, don't answer now. When we come back from the break, when we come back from the break, and then also, we'll look at the number of creative domains that we have and ask ourselves if Ghana were to make a decision to lead with one. Because when you look at a country like South Africa, South Africa, for instance, has championed the concept of all those safaris, much like Kenya and all that. Think the visuals, Tanzania and all of them. When you go to Dubai, it's more about the hotels and all those, even the desert safari and some of all those things. There are those that have also sold themselves via Hollywood, like the States and all those things. If Ghana is to pick one or maybe two, which would my panel suggest we lead with? And how would that be beneficial to help change our narrative? Stay on. It's Joy 99.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Hello, please, am I speaking to Miss Joanna Kuma?
Yes, please.
My name is Philip and I'm calling from MTN. Someone has just sent you money and we will need you to enter your PIN number so that we can put the money in your account.
Hey,
oh dada, MTN will never ask you for your PIN. Never reveal your PIN to anyone under any circumstances. And if you are not sure, always check the number. MTN will only call you with a dedicated number, 0244 300,000. Stay safe, stay vigilant. We are good together everywhere you go.
Wow,
hey!
Sasket! It be 129 Ghana cedis. Yeah, ya tiso. The price of the DSTV decoder has dropped from 169 Ghana cedis to 129 Ghana cedis. It shock you, eh? Make it no shock you, cra. This is our gift to you this Ghana month. You go get the Zappa decoder, a dish plus 1 month of DSTV access. Celebrate Ghana and enjoy the best in sports, movies, international and kids shows for lads. Men's Lucky. Offer valid from 1st to 31st March 2022. DSTV. See you every moment.
When it's 3 p.m. every weekday and you want something refreshing to listen to, which radio show do you listen to?
Me, when it comes to drive time, it's my Lexus. With you, drive time is always the best. Hearing from you every single afternoon, and you're doing a great job.
My name is Lexus Bill, and I bring you the best late afternoon radio show in Ghana. Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. Great tunes, great convos, and the excitement is amazing.
Listen. Please, me, I'm calling from Medina. Let me see your
Your nation.
Your favorite personalities also get to let their hair down on Personality Profile every Thursday evening at 7 p.m.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
You're looking really
Should
good,
I
I must
call
say.
you Kwame or the unpronounceable?
I like Kwame. Okay. Yes. And should I call you Efuekufu?
Gloria Efuekufu.
That's nice.
You want to know their favorite songs?
Anybody sighing? When we were in girls' school, as soon as they played, pam 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 pam, then you see us rushing to the mall.
Don't miss Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM every weekday. I'm Lexus Bill, and I'm your driver. Yo.
Drive Time is powered by Joy Entertainment. We're large and in charge.
It's Showbiz A to Z.
Buckle up, because we're flying high with the biggest entertainment show south of the Sahara. It's Showbiz A to Z. GQ's in the seat.
I love this station.
Keep the frequency clear.
99.7.
George on Joy.
It's Showbiz A to Z.
I love this station.
Music from the legendary Wulome there. They call this one Takaradi. What language is this song? If you know it, please let me know what they are talking about. Good afternoon, Jaws. The Congolese sing mostly in their own languages, and same with artists in South Africa. So our artists don't really need to sing in English. Madam Teresa is right. Thanks, by the way. Greetings to Senior Ken and Uncle Mike. Boss, I don't agree with your guests. The Congolese still sing in their own language and still have a big international audience in francophone countries. Even Zouk music is in French, and that one is coming in from my very good friend and teacher, Mr. Amorin. To live in a country which has had its culture denied, suppressed, even dynamited. To live in a country where pursuing academic course in creative arts and culture is reduced to comedy and silliness in quotes, where our cinemas are transformed into churches, is to live in a country which has no communal identity. And that one is coming in from my man Emmanuel Juo Pipra. It's a whole thesis. I would need to sit up properly before I can read it all. Greetings, Showbiz A to Z. GQ, you say Christianity has done what to our culture? The culture which will make you, GQ, to walk barefoot, put on red cloth as your attire, rain shine, cause the gods of your father's house says it's time to serve them. The culture that never gave Ghana a primary school. You, GQ, went to mission school. Today we'll let your children attend a school which is being operated by a principal who walks barefoot, always in a red cloth around the waist. Nisaki Choco. I find this very interesting. King of Boys is English but has a lot of Yoruba spoken. Had to get a subtitle to understand everything. That's from Nana Kwesi. So yeah, there's a lot of Yoruba in that movie. Our problem is not just about language, but our marriage ceremony is called engagement, and that of the church is called a wedding. Albert, you two, you've made your point. Oh, okay. The gentleman in Sweden says they speak Fanti. He speaks Fanti with his kids at home. That's Ato. Good evening, Ghana. In my view, this is by far the best discussion in Ghana Month series. We've been deliberate in losing our heritage and it's sickening. I wrote a poem about how cynical and upset it is for our ladies to cut their natural hair just to fit in a 3-year educational system. We need an awakening, Ampa. Shem Mixon Yaboa. Rosbar BQ. You can also let your messages come in. It's on 055-1111997. Well done, folk. Great conversation out there. Let's have one more. Let's have more regular and deliberate of such conversations. Joy FM set the tone and champion this program. Thank you. As a nation, we must be intentional in showcasing, projecting, and promoting our rich cultural heritage, be it tangible and intangible, every day. There are 12 months in a year. So we have to celebrate our art, culture, and heritage every day and not once in a month. The media must redefine and dedicate efforts in achieving this. The culture of a people is their identity. It affords them due recognition. Without culture, there's no humanity. And he goes on and on like that. And adds, we should pay attention at the end of it all. Let me come back to the studio. Yes, in the studios, I've got Mrs. Teresa. You are the CEO of Charterhouse Ghana. I've got my very good friend Prof. Gavwa from the University of Ghana. Yes, Heritage Studies. Prof is going to be speaking first when I finish introducing everybody all over again, just in case you just tuned in. Yes, Uncle Kennedy is also here with us. Yes, you know Uncle Kennedy from Jazz on Joy and Kent's Music Mix on Thursdays from 8 p.m. till midnight. And then, of course, we've got my own big brother, father and friend, Mr. Mike Emonkwafo. Mr. Mike Emonkwafo understands this culture conversation very well.
Papa.
And then my two Alhajis. My two Alhajis. Yes, Chief Moomin is here and Sadiq Abdullah Abu is also here. Yes, gentlemen and lady, good evening again. We'll
George,
continue our conversation. Yes.
Oh, a quick one before
Prof comes in. Yeah. Okay.
You know, I don't know whether it was Mike or Prof who was speaking about the hair.
Yes, I think it was a message that came in earlier.
No,
Prof mentioned it.
And he was mentioning Caucasian hair and the amount of money that is spent importing the wigs and the accessories into the country. It just reminded me of when we were growing up. Our mothers, some of them, used to have hot combs put in fire.
Stretching comb.
Yeah,
what they call them stretching combs, to stretch their hair so that the hair becomes straight. So it didn't start today.
Yeah, that's true.
The point I'm trying to make, it didn't start today. Even back in our time, the women were stretching their hair to look a lot more glamorous.
We were giving comb to comb our hair.
Before Prof comes in.
If before Prof comes in,
it's important we make that point, you know. I'm glad Uncle Ken used the word glamorous. Because at the end of the day, it's about what people feel is trendy.
Exactly.
Now, if I'm a young girl and I watch Sewa me here in her glamour and the nice hair flowing down, that's my idea of what beauty is. So that comes down to the point I'm making, that, look, people would move with the trend. So if we think that we want to make Afro hair, trendy, then how do we glamorize it with our media? Today, if Beyonce starts putting on an Afro, it will become popular. All of a sudden.
Anyway,
George, just to
before Prof comes in.
Yeah, before Prof. Yeah. now, you see what all the two examples that have been made is because of deliberate efforts and attempts to put a message through.
Exactly.
You know, my children. I mean, I'm married to a Nigerian, and I admired the way they named their children.
Yeah.
The names they had.
Yeah.
You had very few Nigerian. But I think recently they are using a lot more Christian names.
Yeah.
But in the past,
they
you
hardly
meet a Nigerian with a Christian
name,
be it Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba.
That's true.
A local name identified them as who they were.
True.
You will not meet an Indian person. I mean, with
a Christian name.
An
English name.
Very few Indians, and those ones are the ones who are the Christians.
Yeah,
they're the ones who are the
exactly.
Christian names.
Yeah,
you know. So I made a deliberate attempt when we got married to name my kids with the local names. So he brought his Nigerian names. I said, I'll match you with Ghanaian names.
That's right.
So my son is called Nyamiye.
Oh,
God
nice.
is good, and my daughter is called Jizzy, Faith.
Exactly.
So we can adapt. I mean, we can take our culture along with us.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very dynamic, and it's about being deliberate and intentional.
Yeah.
And we've all been guilty of abandoning our culture, maybe for lack of knowledge and foresight and hindsight and all of that. You know, but I think that we just need to be more aware and more deliberate and intentional. So I think it's not lost. Culture is dynamic, it changes and it's moving. So let's just find ways to take our culture along with all our advancement and development. And you know, at the beginning I mentioned that you talked about the Kwekwanansi.
Yeah.
And I said, why can't we digitalize Kwekwanansi stories?
Very true.
What's stopping us from doing that?
Very true.
Because we want the stories, we want this cultural icon to remain.
Yeah.
So let's not make it die. As I said, we are not doing stories by the fireside anymore. But the children are on their phones.
True.
So how? I mean, I used to watch this Avatar.
Yes.
Yeah. Avatar is a cultural icon from the East.
Yeah.
But it's been put on cartoon series, and we are watching.
And it's been
Avatar.
accepted.
And we know their stories. Animes
are
huge cultural stories being put out there for us to consume. So this is the challenge to our creative colleagues, to use our creative talent to immortalize our culture.
Now, Prof, before anybody, Prof, yes, before the break. I mean, before
Prof is coming to lecture us.
Exactly.
So we are preparing for the lecture.
Yes, before the break, I was asking. I mean, how can we weave all these into national development? And if we were to choose any of our sectors to lead with, because other countries are focused on specific aspects to develop. You go there and you experience other things, but they have things that they are known for. You want to go to Kenya, you know what you're going to get. You want to go to Dubai, you know what you're going to get. So if Ghana is to lead with any of our creative industries, which would you suggest? So, as part of national development.
Industry, they are integrated. Before the break, I overheard my colleagues speaking to that.
Yeah.
They are integrated. So you can't just take one and leave it. You see, the tangible ones are there, but the intangible ones give meaning to the tangible.
Exactly.
Okay. So it is about, again, investing in them deliberately. We can take music, and there's evidence that music has once taken us global. With Osibisa, for example.
Yep.
Okay. It's taken us over across the continent.
Yep.
High life music is known all over. Just Thursday, I was giving a lecture to students in the United States on high life music and how it evolved. Okay. So they are still interested. The world is interested in some of those aspects of our creativity. We ourselves don't see the value in them. That is the point. I've seen so many groups perform outside this continent, in Europe and also in North America. They package their indigenous musical forms and dance forms. Okay. Recently, just a number of years back, we saw some South African groups, Eastern African groups coming to perform at the National Theatre, and for one whole week, everybody was rushing there to
Umoja.
Umoja.
Yeah.
Okay. The same
But,
way,
Madam
we
Gotham.
can package Adoa, we can package Kete. We mix it with Damba, mix it with Bobobo, and other music and dance forms, and then market them professionally outside this continent. We can package our cane products, okay, the furniture or furnishing made by our artists or artisans. We can package those. There is a lot here that we can export. Now, if you want to bring people here to see things, there's a lot they can see. Okay, how do we transform those scenic areas? We have waterfalls. Even the road to get to the waterfall is problematic.
True.
Because we just advertise and think people will go there. We don't have any deliberate means of enhancing those places. Go to the Kwao Plateau. The Kwao people have appropriated Easter, which is a foreign festival, but it is bona fide Kwao.
Exactly.
Kwao celebration, and it's not just
Yeah.
and it is not just about going to church or anything. That is when families return to account for their stewardship. That is where families meet to encourage each other, to identify who should be sponsored and who not to be sponsored, and so on and so forth. That is when they perform their rituals to connect with the Almighty through their deities. Okay, now there's paragliding. And they have even attempted to, and they are attempting to appropriate that paragliding. Although it's a foreign thing that has been brought to them, that they want to see how they can own it. And there are so many scenic areas on that plateau that we don't know yet. Okay, the same thing applies to other parts of this nation. Okay, go to the north. Go to Mole National Park, for example. There's a lot there beyond the wildlife that we will see. Okay, it is there that the wildlife come to you at your hotel. You don't have to drive very far before you see them. But what are we doing? Until recently, before you get to Larabanga, you will be covered in dust. Okay, and then you get to Mole itself. You turn on the tap and mud flows on you.
Wow.
And yes, until recently.
Until recently.
So, what is it that we should package in the creative arts? Let us identify what there is. It needs research. We have to research the industry. We have to get the data on what there is. We don't have much data on the industry because we have not taken it seriously. How much are our musicians making or bringing into the continent? What is the income level? Those who are exporting their music, how much are they getting? How can we enhance that? We have not done that so far. Okay, so we need to research it before we know which one to take.
To focus
which one
on.
not to take. Now, you asked another question before
Yes.
we went on break. Do we have to continue with all aspects of
our culture?
Our culture? No society continues with all aspects of the culture. Necessarily, some of the aspects of culture will go, but there are others that we are demeaning because we don't understand them.
Like
Others we think are aspects of our culture which are not aspects of our culture. And I'll give you two examples. There was a mention of Dipo.
Yes.
Dipo is not understood. And it takes international NGOs to come and tell us that it's violation of human rights and so on and so forth, the rights of women and so on. Dipo was like a school. Okay, I did research Krobo over a period of 10 years. Okay, and students have written on Dipo, and we ourselves, we have gone deep to understand what it is. It was a school lasting those days up to about a year, where ladies or young girls are trained in ethics, etiquette, how to take care of the house and the family when the men are in the fields. Okay, how to take care of the man, hygiene, good hygiene. That is why if you do not go through Dipo, you are not permitted to marry. And as a man, you should only marry a lady that has gone through Dipo. And it cut down this teenage pregnancy and so on and so forth. But it's not well understood. And then we only propagate the aspect when the young girls are in quote, stripped naked. Okay, is to break you down first back to nature and build you. The day you graduate, you dress in the best of the clothes, beads, the best of the textiles. That is when they parade you. They don't parade you naked at all. Okay, just like the military. When you join the military, they break you down as a civilian and rebuild you. Some of those things we need to understand before we demean them. Now, there are aspects of our culture that we can't continue to be proud of. For example, head cutting.
Yeah.
This was introduced not by Africans. It was introduced by Europeans.
Wow.
When they started fighting with us, okay, young European military men would cut off the heads of those who they killed using gunfire,
Yeah.
and then put it on trophy and parade the streets, dance just to frighten the society, the community, that, hey, don't dare us.
Otherwise, that's what we do to you.
So we thought that, oh, this is glamorous. If you are brave, then you must cut your friend's head and so on and so forth. It's not, and it's gone through the generations. So we think, oh, bravo is powerful and so on. This is how many Africans or how many Ghanaians like to see blood. When there's blood here, we start running away. Okay? But Europeans, when they see blood, they can even take a jet fighter and bomb a whole community and say, "Hee-haw, we've made it," and celebrate. Okay? Everybody will be sad here. If there's an accident and we see blood, everybody will be sad. So there are some of these things that have gone through generations that are not us. The last example I'll give is that the claim that we demean women in Africa and in our Ghanaian context. Indeed, today, some men don't respect women. Why? It has gone, somebody said it's generational. It has gone through generation to generation. But this is not Ghanaian.
It isn't.
It isn't Ghanaian at all. It was introduced to us by the 8th century, 8th, 9th century. Islam started coming through North Africa and eventually got here. In Islam, women pass the back of the mosque into the mosque. They sit away from the men, and so on and so forth. In Christianity, how many women have gone to the priesthood? Even the Anglican Church, until recently, women were not permitted to become priests. Yes. And then the separation is there.
Yeah.
Go to the school system. Girls' dormitory separate, boys' dormitory separate. You don't sit together, and so on and so forth. So these things were, according to Terence Ranger and Hobsbawm, these are called invented tradition. Okay, traditions that Europeans invented and introduced to us. And because we have passed them on from generation to generation, we think it's cultural, we think it's traditional. Okay, so when you speak to a young person, for example, the person is not supposed to look you in the eyes. Otherwise, doesn't respect. Then we say discipline. Okay, what kind of discipline is that? You are training us to be timid.
Yeah, exactly.
When a child asks questions, you say the child does not respect. These things were introduced to us. Okay, they were introduced to us, and then we have internalized them. Even our women have internalized this discrimination, and then they say, "Oh, send me your bar." Okay, so there are some things.
Prof, question. Can we, ascribe all the challenges with our culture to, imported ideas? Because what I'm getting from your presentation, decapitation, we learnt it. Rights against women, we learnt. I think that
Chief,
we can also admit that. There will be certain all cultures. There's no culture that is plain, has marked all the boxes everywhere. There will be problematic aspect of everyone's culture.
Chief, let me address your question.
Yes.
You see, you can't blame everything on that. What we are saying is this: some of these things have been introduced to us. We've been coerced into accepting them, and they've been with us for centuries. You see, 64, 65 years of just legal independence. We are not politically independent because we still have sponsored leaders. Yeah. Okay, we are not economically independent because our economy is not in our hands. Okay, so 65 years of legal independence cannot wipe off what we've gone through over 500 good years of mental, psychological, emotional, and psychological torture. Now, we are saying that if we do not realize that these things have come far, we've gone a long way through it, we cannot begin to address them. Indeed, those who are in position of power, who should be helping us, we were talking about policy makers, we've been talking about leadership, those who are to make the deliberate effort for us to transform, have also gone through the same system without addressing them, without realizing that it is about time we looked at ourselves, we looked back and realized that no, there's something wrong with us. If we continue to deny and say that, oh, it is our own making. I hear many people say, oh, we are of age. We Africans, it is our fault. It's our own making. Indeed, we should have learned from our past, from our history, learn from our neighbors of the world. But the challenges or the forces that keep us down are very powerful and active. That is what we see through church, for example. That is what we see through the educational system. Why should we be getting books produced by Cambridge or books from Cambridge for our schools today, whilst we have many educationists in the country? That's my thing. Why should we be going out to look for investors, whilst we have so many rich businessmen, okay, people with business acumen here? Have we had any government that has assembled local businessmen to think about the economy? We put together
we have to create our own oligarchs.
We put together a group of people who we claim are experts, and then we take them to Atimpoku or Akosombo, okay, economic team, and then they go there and talk about Yale. This is what the Yale professor has said. This is what the Harvard professor has said. Have you looked within?
Yeah, Prof, I think we agree with most of your submissions. I was just only cautioning that we should also not try and romanticize, post-colonial, African culture in such a way.
It is not about romanticizing. It is time for us to decolonize.
Yes, for that we agree. Decolonization is a process ongoing across various folds. But I just wanted to make the point that it's also important to us to acknowledge that there may have been some inherent problematic aspect of our culture. Other than that, it may not even have been, subsumed by other cultures. We have to agree that when we interacted with other people, somehow ours gave in. So there may have been some deficiencies. So I'm just also cautioning against over romanticizing, not necessarily because of what Prof is saying, because I hear the narrative out there sometimes when we ask, our culture was this, our culture was this, our culture was this. But yes, as we also say, culture, and even what was Prof who said that culture is what heritage is what the present generation makes of the past.
But we must be cautious. We can't say we must be trendy and then accept it like that. Otherwise, we'll float.
Yeah, of course.
Fella said that follow, and then you don't know where you are going until you enter the ditch, because that's the trend. So let's follow the trend. No, by following the trend, we must follow the trend based on what we have, the core. What direction do we want to go? How is that new trend helping us today?
Exactly. No, Chief. I think if we continue, we're not finished. We're out of time. So yes. Prof has made the point. I think the point is very clear. And Prof would have no. I also will not finish. Prof would also have to take leave of us. Prof will say thank you very much. I think the point has been well made. Let me go around the rest of the table, and then we'll also open the phone lines 0302-216-541. You can also contribute to this all important topic. Madam, let me come to you. So, if we were to choose, I feel that sometimes in deciding to go with everything, try to integrate and make sure we can do this, we can do that, that is where we lose the plot. So if you were, let us assume the president is inviting you to lunch to help advise him on which of our creative domains we should lead with, which would you have chosen and why?
It's very difficult to honestly just say let's choose one, because they're all interwoven. Because, for example, if the examples you mentioned, you talked about Kenya, leading with the tourism, which is the safari,
the safaris and stuff, the nature tourism,
the nature tourism.
Nature tourism.
They led with that, but then within that whole nature tourism, there's a full cultural experience of the costume. If you go, there's no way you will go on a safari without throwing on the Maasai blanket, without doing the jumping, without buying the trinkets and the jewelry and visiting Asai village. So it's all kind of
interwoven,
mixed in there, So I think that what we need to do is to be able to see the perfect blend of all our creative
assets
and presenting it in a way that allows people to have a true experience of what it is to be Ghanaian. All right. If you go to Dubai has chosen to use pleasure tourism.
Yeah.
You know, as the vehicle to drive Dubai.
Yeah.
You know, and so they have invested in the various pleasure spots.
True.
For us to go and have fun. So that's what they've chosen to do. The US, was very deliberate about using Hollywood. And Hollywood encapsulated both the music and the movies.
True.
So it was branded and put out to the world. So the music went with the movies. So and India also did that with the movies, not also the music, the movies and the music. So like I said, they are intertwined. Movies go with music, goes with the display of the culture in the movies. I remember for a long time in Ghana, I used to wonder why when we are portraying rich women in movies, we always have to have women wearing gele. And I was wondering why is that the symbolism of wealth in a movie in Ghana?
Yeah.
That's their symbolism of wealth.
True.
But if we're doing a movie in Ghana and want to portray a rich woman, we should have our own identity, of what a rich man in Ghana should look like.
Maybe some Jerry Kells or something.
No, we have a kente. We have how we can present ourselves. So we just need to be. It's very difficult for me to say let's lead with music. Or let's lead with the movies. But I would look for a platform that brings everything together. So I think if you push me, I would say the movies. I think the movies would be a great platform to put everything together. Because through the movies, you get to see our culture, you get to see our dancing, you get to experience our music, you get to see our fashion, you get to see how we live, how we eat. And I think that has been honestly one of the greatest exporters of culture. Of pop culture around the world, the movies. I mean, we all went to America without even stepping there.
True.
And emulated the American story.
There are people who even slang. They slang better than Americans.
Yes,
they've never been. They don't see airports before.
A huge weapon of cultural tourism.
True.
We watch movies. We watch the Shaolin movies, the Kung Fu, and all of that. It came through the music. Through the movies. We watched. Bollywood came through the movies. So I think that's a really huge, powerful tool that honestly we have neglected. Here, and I think that's probably, if I had the opportunity to advise the president, I would suggest that.
Solid.
Well, if I was going to advise the president, I probably would take him up on a drone so he can have a broad look before I zoom in to movies. Let me explain. After independence, when Kwame Nkrumah set up, when he started Ghana with all those sound bites, the black man is able to do blah, blah, blah. The independence of Ghana is meaningless.
Unless it's linked to the total liberation of the African continent.
He had a theme. His theme was Pan-Africanism. You get it? I believe that today, the idea of OAU and then AU and where it came from may not function in the same old mode. Today, I believe it is important for African states to understand that an African Union will be stronger when there are strong independent states. So, as Ghana, what will be our purview? At the end of the day, what is it that we want to structure that will communicate to us and then communicate to the world? It is our expression. There's something that we have destroyed. Football. Okay. It was a major identifier for Ghana.
True.
Ghana was known for its football.
True.
We destroyed it. We should revive it. But you see, it's sad to see that a lot of the dialogue is about Chelsea. And what's the other group?
Manchester United.
And Man U.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, they are not being.
I mean, we like to discuss that. Same old trend. We disrespect our own. But football is powerful.
The football
my
Yeah.
friend
I mean, ridiculous.
Ambuli
Yeah.
sends me most of his tours and things, you know. And he's out there doing things. In his own small way, he's become an icon for our music out there in his concerts. And you'd be amazed at how people respond to his shout and those things. You get it? They don't understand the language, but they're there. And he's become a statement. So when you come down here, I believe that it has to begin with the policymakers. Having a dialogue with all stakeholders. With my work experience, you'll be surprised at some of the areas that some of these pursuits have come from. For example, I was the Ghana consultant for Hanover 2000.
Yeah.
And even though it was touristic and everything, it was stage managed by trade. Because they look at the trade market.
Yeah.
So, this is the 21st century. Everything that Prof said is relevant. But I am saying that today, we probably do not have to cry too much over the fact that we've lost our cinema houses. Almost as if we knew COVID was going to come. You know, the new normal is such that if you go to the MTN building now, it's almost empty, right? Most of the guys are working from home.
From home.
Something interesting that happened during the crisis of COVID was to do with entertainment. And you remember, I mean, we're all talking about how are we going to sustain this industry, how are we going to communicate, how are we going to get people to come together and so on. Now, the people to the lead, I commend Theresa here and Charterhouse.
Yeah.
I commend Carbon AV, your friend Kojo Rana.
Yeah.
And the Emmy Awards.
Yeah.
They found a way in the midst of the COVID to still be able to rally and make that expression for entertainment, for leisure, and so on. In the new mail, what I'll tell the president is that let's take advantage of the digital dispensation that we are in. And thank God we built some kind of infrastructure and build on that, because the communication is changing so fast. These guys who are making music, they sit in their rooms with their phones and they beat out all kinds of rhythms. I don't know what you call that now, but also all these, you call it beats.
Beats.
Yes.
B-E-A-T, yes.
I mean, people sit in their rooms and they use TikTok to make movies for what it is worth. People are watching it, you know. So look at music, look at movies, look at dance, look at tourism, all of those things within the context of a digital expression. How do we commandeer all these things and still be relevant? For me, we need to come from the perspective of market. Because what is significant for us really will be how to keep body and soul together. The bottom line is that you're still looking at the fundamentals. You're looking at shelter, you're looking at food, you're looking at clothing, you're looking at welfare, you're looking at people subsisting in their communities in relative comfort and security. So these things cannot be looked at in isolation. It is important that we understand that these are all bridges to be able to create an environment where things work. This country will not be in a socio-economic crisis because all these things are integrated. But back to what you are soliciting, I'll go with Theresa with film.
With the film.
Because film...
Sorry, just to add to...
Yes.
when I say film, I'm not limiting it to just like the silver screen.
Exactly.
I'm actually talking
everything
about
that's
the small screen.
the visual.
Yeah,
Yes.
everything.
The audiovisual.
Audiovisual.
Exactly. Yeah,
I should
I
say
get you.
audiovisual.
Yeah.
It's where I think we can place everything we have. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what
so
I'm
you're saying
buying.
same thing. Okay.
Because film as a window in the
Yeah.
first place. You said that. You
Yeah.
know, film as a window will expose all these other things.
Exactly.
You know, because
Very
that
true.
one is actually dynamic.
Exactly.
But then all the performances will be in there.
Everything.
You know, including our architecture. I would lastly would like to say that if you look at Dubai, for example, Dubai is structured for tourism, it's a business hub, and so on. But they've done something with their culture in expression. Look at all their iconic buildings. There are things that have called in designers, engineers, and artists.
And they've put it all
You know,
together.
deliberate. to build a spectacle that will draw
That will draw you in. Thank you
know?
very much. We'll have to. We're almost out of time, and I'll have to bring the others into. Uncle Ken.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to piggyback on Chief's
Yeah.
earlier submission.
Yeah.
That all what we are discussing now, for instance, this question that you posed,
Yeah.
it is not going to happen in a million years. As we live during our generation, we are not ever going to choose one
language to become a national
or one thing to discuss. So I want to avoid going there,
which is true
altogether.
actually.
Yeah,
It's a non-problem.
Yeah.
but the film matter that both Theresa and Mike raised. I was happy to learn that as part of our independence celebrations in Spain, the Ghana Embassy invited some filmmakers, 3 of them, apparently Ama Abebrese and 2 other, and they took 3 films along with them. They invited some, and our own Miss Yali.
Nola. Yeah.
Nola is also part of the
was
delegation,
part of the
that,
delegation
went
that
there.
went. Yeah.
And the films were subtitled in Spanish.
Yeah.
To show to a Spanish audience.
Yeah.
In Spain, I think it was a very
That was
good
a brilliant idea.
idea
Yeah.
that must be maintained.
Yeah.
George, I did not contribute on the Kweku Anansi
Exactly.
thing that you started off with.
Yeah.
What was your main point about Kweku Anansi? What have we forgotten about Kweku Anansi?
Now the point was that when you speak to today's child, today's child knows Spider-Man.
But does not know
Kweku Anansi, and the question is why?
Why? Okay. Me, as I was growing up, I saw Kweku Anansi as a very deviant character. the villain.
Sadiq mentioned it. Yeah.
Sadiq mentioned it.
As a villain.
No, I saw him, and strangely enough, all his foibles were magnified.
Yeah.
To the disadvantage of the good or the moral that was supposed to come out of his antics.
On the contrary, no.
If you understand what I'm saying, so when you mention Kweku Anansi, for instance, growing up, you could be insulted and said, "Jao Kweku Anansi Nsemuhunun."
Yes, but that was the point. Uncle Ken, that was exactly the point. And that was what Kweku Anansi taught you.
Yes.
Kweku Anansi taught you that if you were deviant, if you were truant, if you did the bad thing,
he
you
did
would
not
always
succeed.
Yes, he never succeeded.
He
always caught.
He was always caught.
I'm saying
that was the point.
Yes, and I'm saying that he did not succeed in teaching us because of the way his foibles were magnified.
I get you.
That is my
I
my
get
point
you.
with it. Yeah.
I get you. I get you. Very interesting point
To
there.
add briefly,
Let me.
when you look at, earlier on I mentioned the transition from Kweku Anansi to Osofo
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
They
The
showed-
story was
they showed
changed.
all the bad
Yes.
things, and then they summed it up.
Exactly.
In the
But with Osofo Dazi, it worked.
It worked.
Anyway,
Let me bring Sadiq quickly in. We're out of time.
Yeah.
So, Sadiq, your
For
thoughts
me, George,
on
I think
everything.
that we spent part of the point is that we spent time trying to have a more academic conversation on identity and all of that.
Yeah.
And less about the economic systems creative enterprises are.
Yeah.
And so often when you have policymakers or leaders listening and do not understand, they are probably lost within the context of identity and all of those, which is good. I mean, it's important, but because they do not see the connections to the economic systems and the fact that it creates employment, the numbers and all of those things, they do not have an understanding how to enable it. And which I'll connect it to what you've asked for us to focus on in terms of, what will sell Ghana.
Yeah.
I think that Madam Theresa and Michael Mankwafu express their wish on content, essentially. Film.
Audiovisual mainly.
I would say that the Ghana vibe, which is often amplified through content, we notice something. December has become a holiday makers period in Ghana, for instance. And every year, last year, for instance, the minister, when they were launching the Beyond the Return, estimated that they were expecting, was it 650,000 people for that period? He made this statement in October, and the target projected was $2 billion for the country. Now, Ghana had predominantly become a holiday makers period in December because there's a certain Ghana vibe which has been amplified through the content that goes on social media and all of that. So there's dance. Dance God Law is doing something on dance. Others are doing stuff with music. And then there's a whole talk about Ghana's hospitality. And there's a whole certain Ghana vibe, which is an intangible thing which has been amplified as something which is good. You know, they are hospitable people, they are fun-loving people, they have a certain vibe. I don't know exactly what to pinpoint, but that's what has been sold to the world. It's not much about the slavery and all of that, because as much as if you look at the Year of Return, for instance, a lot of emphasis was connected to the slavery, and that was what was pushed out.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, take a look at the period or the month that experienced a lot more visitors into the country.
It's a
it was
party
in December.
period.
It was a party period.
Yeah.
And all these people were coming in because there was a certain content which anchored their stay here. The parties,
Yeah.
the festivals, Afro Nation, Waterland, Afrochella, all of that. All of that captures the Ghana vibe. You know, from music to movies to whatever, celebrity culture, parties, all of that, regardless of whether some of them do not necessarily express our identity, but it's well couched or had been accepted as a certain Ghana vibe which everybody wants into. I traveled to Tanzania, friends, and everybody's like, in December I should have come to Ghana. I want to come to Ghana.
I want to come to Ghana.
What is in Ghana that you want to come to?
So
Because
for
December,
you, it is the vibe that must be
it's a Ghana
sold
vibe, which
in
must be,
addition
I
to-
mean,
Let me hear from
amplified through
Chief
content.
Moment as well, very
I agree
quickly.
with
So
Sadiq,
we
but
go.
I agree with him
Yeah.
too, but I think
You agree, but you don't agree.
You've asked two questions in one, right?
Yes, exactly.
One is about, for example, what sector of tourism can we push?
To push.
You know,
Yeah.
heritage tourism,
Yeah.
destination tourism.
Exactly.
Stuff like
Which
you mentioned
one?
Kenya as a,
Nature tourism-
as a-
nature tourism
I mean,
and
for
all.
me, it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. When it comes to the sector, it's heritage tourism.
Mhm.
It is our history and who we are as a people that defines, you know, our place in this world. So
Yeah.
the role of, you know, the transatlantic slave
Slave
trade,
trade.
the role of, you know, Ghana and African emancipation. So I've always said that Ghana should be a marker for people of African descent and Africans around the world. So every African will feel, if I don't come to Ghana before I die, I haven't gone in a pilgrimage.
You haven't died properly.
Yes, every African or black person in the diaspora and the Caribbeans in the Americas should feel that I have to come back. And when they are coming back, what are they coming for? They are coming
Yeah.
for connection. They are coming for healing. So how do we curate our tourism in such a way that it satisfies this? Now, Sadiq talks about the Ghana vibe. Let's understand that we've been having visitors come here organically without doing anything for decades. You know, Panafest was big.
Yeah.
You know, of course, today because of social media and things, we're able to amplify. But what has sustained us over the years is our heritage. Maybe the Ghana vibe, the whole Ghana as a December party thing may just be, you know, something that can, you know, phase out in a generation or so. So if we are thinking sustainability over the years, I think that it is heritage tourism. How do we package our stories in such a way that is engaging so that when people come, you know, they can experience? And one of the biggest tourism potential we have is Nkrumah. Obviously, you know, and how we brand Nkrumah and create experiences around him will sell. Because when you talk about the most popular Ghanaians globally, you can't take away Nkrumah's name. He was voted African of the Millennium. So for me, heritage tourism is a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
That brings to the question, how then do we use our creative arts to enable that kind of tourism or to sell that kind of message as Ghana as a place to come, to connect, to heal, you know, to refreshen your African perspective? That's where this Ghana vibe comes in. So the whole idea that, okay, young Africans are now saying that, look, we want to take our destinies into our own hands, we want to create our own spaces. So even these parties, there is not just parties that are going on. For example, Afrochella, they had very serious programs on the side. You know, they talked about Ghana history, they tried to do a little museum because they realized that it's not just about the party.
Yeah.
At a point in time, the drinking and the dancing, yeah, but there has to be some substance that you create. These things will give you the hype. But after a while, if you don't have substance, that hype would fade. So that's where we have to create true and meaningful experiences through our creative arts. And I'll say that if we have to take one sector out, it will be theater. Obviously, because I'm back.
Obviously.
And strategically, because look, Nigerians have taken over the movie and the music industry.
We can beat them.
For now.
They took it from
can
us. We can
Of
beat
course.
them.
No,
Yeah.
but it's not even about beating them
Yeah.
because they have, I mean, Nigerian market, the dynamics
Yeah.
are different. Let's get what is due for us. But
Yeah.
if we want to differentiate and distinguish ourselves on the global scene and notice a place that we can take the lead, I would say it is heritage theater.
Point made. And you heard him, Chief Abdul Mumin. Now people still hear that dull collar tone when they call you, right? Why in 2022? Look, MTN wants you to know that you can still bring some life into your collar ringback tone with some of your favorite music. If you enjoy high life, hip hop, hip life or gospel, then all you have to do is dial *1355# to choose from a wide range of music options, and that's it. Everyone who calls you gets to listen and dance to your favorite music too. So get a dope collar ring back tone today and enjoy live only on MTN. How to strengthen our cultural and creative industries for national development. Let me say special thanks to Prof. Kujugavwa, Department of Archaeology and Heritage Studies, University of Ghana, Legon. He had to leave us early on. And the voice you heard just before the music started was that of Chief Abdul Momen, poet, playwright, and creative entrepreneur. We're also joined by my brother Sadiq Abdullah Abu, CEO of 3 Music Network. Uncle Kennedy is a regular member on our show as a pundit, and he's host of Ken's Music Mix and Jazz on Joy Radio on Joy 99.7 FM. Mrs. Teresa Ayode is Chief Executive Officer of Charterhouse, and a woman who taught me a lot of things that I know today. Thank you very much, ma'am. And my big brother, my boss and friend, Mr. Mike Monkwafo, creative consultant and cultural practitioner. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much. We've educated GH this evening. The news is going to be coming up. Then my man Bele is going to come take over. Flashback. He's going to play Ghana music this evening. Flashback. A Ghanaian loves and cherishes a white man with long hair and any style, but hate a Ghanaian man with long hair. In fact, call them fraud men. Ghana for you. Our problem goes deep from every angle. Nana Kwesi. George, currently as a country, there is nothing that we can be identified with except for the fights our honorables have been having in the chamber. No name to that one. We must adopt and adapt only the foreign things which are in consonance with our culture and will make us develop. Our system of governance now is even a borrowed system. Our policymakers are speakers of English but find it difficult to solve problems. Fred from Oyibi sent that one, and we've lost it before, and it's not too late. Way to go. Do you remember the Lost Fisherman? That was it. That Woolome folkloric group made waves. That was a good example of African theatre that went quite far and can be adapted. The stage setting, the music, the acting, and all was great from Woola Cobbs. Thank you all very much for being a part of the show. It was produced by my man Philip Nye with support from Anita. The news comes up next. Then Bailey takes over. Social media was handled by my man Crispy. DJ Uber to give us the music early on. My name is George Quaye. This has been another edition of Showbiz A to Z. Next time you hear my voice on this network, it's going to be Monday evening for the Late Night Express.